Here we go.
Okay.
The 1960s were as infamous as they were famous. From the Summer of Love and the Civil Rights Movement to the Cuban Missile Crisis and 4 prominent assassinations, this tumultuous decade ended with a giant leap for mankind. But one thing that never changed was the need to laugh, and shows featuring shipwrecked tourists, sexy genies, and creepy families provided that, as well as influenced future generations. So come join the panel as we discuss our favorites and how they influenced us, and who knows, you may discover a 60s sitcom you didn't even know you liked. Right now on Dispatches from Outside the Box.
In the spaces, things exist. In the lines that form the network of your mind. Behind the retinas of imagination are the particles and peripherals that made you who you are. Turn off, shut your eyes, and listen to Dispatches from Outside the Box.
All right. So let me drop the card. All right. Welcome to the show where we scour the corners of geekdom to inspire you to create outside the box. I'm C Michael Lanning, independent artist and mad scribbler. Before we meet our panel, I'd like to ask you to subscribe, like, share, and make sure you leave a comment. We like to hear from all sorts of people, which is why I'm going to now introduce the panel. Coming to us fresh from her battle with Copic markers.
Yes.
Dynamo Daphne Lage.
I just got like refills too, so I'm going all the way with these. Yeah, so hello, my name is Daphne Lage, and I'm a cartoonist, illustrator, and comic book artist from New York. I have been self-publishing comics since 1992, and I am known for the funny animal fantasy adventure Tall Tales, which is in its last less than 20 hours-ish on Kickstarter right now. So there's that. And I am also known for my medieval fantasy soap opera, Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, which is also on Kickstarter, but on pre-launch right now. This actually drops on August 22nd. I am also co-host with Nita Lanning on the Ragin to the Vlogs show every Monday and Friday on here, right here on the Ragin 2 network. And also, you can read both my comics online at Tall Tales, TAILS online.com, and eagleworks.com, EGOWORKS. And you can also check out all of my videos on how I make my comics here on YouTube at Daphne Lage, Lage Art, which also simulcasts through this channel. So again, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell whenever any of our shows go live.
Yes.
Just make the algorithm gods happy. That's all.
And tell a friend, somebody. And from the farthest reaches of comicdom, condomdom.
No, that's a different book.
What? That's like 3 books down the road for me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, everybody. Hey everybody, I'm Randy Zimmerman. I'm a longtime alternative and independent comics creator, self-publisher, publisher, freelancer, you name it. I've probably done it in this business, and I will continue to do it for as long as I can. So You can catch me as I run my show on the Ragin 2 network tomorrow night on the Zimcast, plus the Sunday Funnies program that's on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. So it's Zimcast at 9 p.m., Sunday Funnies at 9 a.m. And you can't read, I don't think there's any of my comics online. And it's been, pardon me, many, many years since I've gone all the way with Copic markers.
Considering I think they only existed in the past 10. So
all right, and we also have with us Jared. Jared, introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Jared. I'm a pop culture nerd, geek, aficionado. I don't know everything, but one day I will. Aspiring comic book creator one day, if I get out of here. Yeah, that's me.
Let me out of this box.
I'm trying.
That's what we're here for. That's right. We're there. And of course, also introducing Mitch Rogers. Mitch.
Hello, I'm Mitch Rogers. I am a 14-year veteran of the indie comics world, horror writer, creator, and artist. And my most famous creation is the Boger, now in figurine form.
Oh, awesome.
Cool.
Nice.
very nice.
You don't make it until you have a figurine of your creation.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. It feels
That's awesome.
so official. When
Oh,
you
yeah.
have
Or a
one.
Funko Pop. You got to get a Funko Pop of it.
Yeah.
Or you see somebody cosplay your character. That's
Well,
Oh,
just
that'd
that's
be kinda
true.
cool.
That's true too. That's the
Mind-blowing.
next level. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be weird. Just like,
Well, yeah,
Could be.
of course it is.
so it's like, wait a minute. So anyway, tonight we're talking about 60 sitcoms, and the reason why I decided to start from the 1960s instead of saying like going back into the 1950s is because when you look at the 1950s, you have the Honeymooners, you have I Love Lucy, you have the Phil Silver Show, Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver, and all that.
But you have My Mother the Car.
Yes.
No, I don't.
No,
Yes,
I
you
don't
do.
know that one.
You go
That
go
one
back and
didn't
look that
stand
one
the
up.
annals of time.
No, it didn't.
think I
But
have
Fred
heard that,
Gwynn, Fred Gwynn was in
Of
that.
course.
That's where he started.
Iconic.
Yeah.
It was
That sounds about
Iconic.
Jerry Van Dyke.
Jerry Van Dyke. Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
So Jerry Van Dyke, did Jerry Van Dyke have a show before Dick Van Dyke?
Wasn't Mr. Ed started in the 50s as well?
Probably.
There you go.
Don't know.
Missing two
I can
classics.
look it up on Wikipedia real quick.
Two crazy classics at once.
Yeah,
True.
but when so these are precursors.
My Mother
these
the
are
Car,
triples.
very high concept.
Right.
Yeah.
These are, of course, but then you get to the 60s, and there's just this explosion. And now sitcoms, and Jared, define sitcoms for us, because we have to have this definition of what a sitcom is.
Right. We need we need the chat to fight over this.
Sitcom basically stands for a situational comedy. So anything that is situational, so yeah, situation.
And it probably has a laugh track and
Yeah.
Well,
that's
the-
good.
Filmed live in front of a studio audience.
Could be.
maybe.
Dude,
It's
early
not real
60s.
unless it has a
maybe.
sign, a light up sign that says "Laugh Now."
Of course, we also have one
Otherwise,
that
it
was.
wouldn't be funny.
So okay, well, let's say put it this way: we say laugh track. Let me see if I can pull this up. We say laugh track and situations. What about the Flintstones? Can't be filmed in front of a live studio audience, though.
But if the Flintstones is considered a sitcom.
It's considered, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was on
Basically a
prime
remake
time.
of The Honeymoon.
Yeah, it was on prime time, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
yes, it was the first
Yeah.
one actually, the first animated show.
first adult situational comedy.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so what determines a sitcom? A sitcom, short for situation comedy, is a genre of comedy centered on a fixed set of characters who carry over from from episode to episode. Sitcoms can be contrasted with sketch comedy, where a troupe may use new characters in each sketch, and stand-up comedy, where a comedian tells jokes and stories to an audience. So we're still we're still on the fence as to whether Batman would be considered a situational comedy. But I guess the fact that since it's technically not a comedy, it wouldn't count.
Oh no, it was a comedy.
Comedy,
Yeah.
Well, not
It's definitely
intentionally.
comedy.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh no, it was
I
intentional.
feel like it was
comedy,
pretty
yes.
intentional.
Let's see.
You can't
Some
see
of
a
it was totally
whirling
cheeky.
kapow pop up on your screen without it being intentional, and that is definitely comedic. So, though I don't know if you would label it as a sitcom as much as like an adventure show.
Right.
It really defied genres. That's really one of the main
Okay,
reasons
so
it only lasted 3 years. It's
Let's see.
gone.
So, let's see. It was described Batman. It was Batman show. Was the Batman show a comedy? It was described by executive producer William Dozier as the only situation comedy on the air without a laugh track. So I guess a laugh track is required.
Essential.
Must be true.
Yeah,
At least
that's
in
all
the
it says
60s.
here. Yeah, so I guess
In the 60s.
only the executive producer considered it a comedy, but I guess it wasn't classified as one.
Maybe we could say maybe a dramedy. It had all
I
the
think that's
drama,
why it's
comedy.
lasted as long as it has, because it's got all of those different elements, and it's really such a classic because it's iconic, and it does fit.
Yeah, and probably
mold.
because it was like geared more towards children.
Yeah,
So I
Yeah,
guess
some
it's
pretty
not
dark
considered.
themes too, like
Yeah.
associative disorders and
and it had a much longer staying power than Captain Nice. So
All right, let's see. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it
that
says
came out of
here.
nowhere.
Yeah, it was mostly meant for
Nice.
teenagers.
hey, I got him. You see that gray beard? It's earned. Earned right there. All that gray, all that white right there,
Trying.
earned. A lot of that's in my childhood, in my extremely early youth.
Started
still
going gray
remember
that
this
early,
stuff.
right?
Yeah, extremely early youth. You don't
What were you
remember,
saying,
of
Dad?
course, you've never seen Captain Nice. Nobody has.
No.
You don't see it
never heard
on
of
Me
it.
TV or any of the any of the rerun channels. You don't see It's My World and Welcome to It either, and that's a classic show that should be out there because it's about the life of James Thurber and the different cartoons that he drew.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just amazing
But-
combination of live action and comedy. Well, if you know James Thurber's work, it's basic line work anyway, so it was easy to animate.
Well, so let me ask. So, if that's the question, if we were good with Batman not having a laugh track and they considered it comedy, why did the Flintstones have a laugh track?
Because they wanted to be considered a situation comedy.
Right, yeah. Because they were basing that they were basing it on the honeymooners
Honeymooners,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you also have to remember this is before there were Saturday morning cartoons per se.
Right.
That's why Hanna-Barbera stopped running shows in prime time for the most part, because they made so much more money. They got paid the same, whether it was shown in prime time or if it was shown on Saturday morning. So they decided to flood Saturday morning with every show that they possibly could. So they cut back on production on their prime time shows. Thus, you only had one season of Johnny Quest until Cartoon Network came up and screwed it all. But screwed it all up.
I remember that one. Cool theme song, but yeah, other than that, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, the Cartoon Network run.
Yeah.
At the first season, it's available on DVD. Freaking classic. Just beautiful animation. Doug Wilde storyboards. They had a lot of great people working on that show. But Flintstones is the same way. You have to remember these TV is just coming off of radio. And radio had a whole lot of phenomenal situation comedies running on there and variety shows like Duffy's Tavern. And Fred Allen used to have Allen's Alley, where he would walk down his neighborhood and ask a question to everybody that answered the door. They just walk up to a door and knock on it, and whoever opened it was there. So,
Right.
Well, that's a show that wouldn't work here right now.
well, yeah, probably not.
Just answer to the ring. Just
Yeah.
answer to the ring.
Yeah, just talk to the ring. Yeah.
go away.
There's somebody going around interviewing the Ring doorbells.
Yeah,
Ah,
exactly.
you're on TV.
But apparently, Jackie Gleason had a real big problem with the Flintstones and wanted to sue them.
Sure he did.
at
Sure,
one
yeah.
time.
I would believe
Took his
that.
own
I
shtick.
mean, yeah.
Well, they told him really, his lawyer said, yeah, you probably would win this, but you got to ask the question: do you want to win something against such a beloved show? Because this show was both kids were into it and parents were both into it, so it was such a huge show. So you want to be the one to know, known as the guy that took Fred Flintstone off the air.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you're right, but
Yeah, right.
And again, what killed Flintstones, Jetsons, Johnny Quest, where it was the move from prime time to Saturday morning for Hanna-Barbera in the 60s. So,
Well,
or
you know,
they,
Still
you would
waiting
still,
on a
which is
faithful,
sad
Johnny
because
Quest.
if they hadn't done that, I think animation would be more acceptable as a universal medium instead of as a kiddie show.
yeah, and that's kind of weird too, because it's like, even with all the different types of animation that you see right now, it's like people really do still think, like, you look at, the Nightmare of the Wolf, which is the Witcher anime, and people will still say, yeah, this is for kids, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, what's funny about that is my kids, they see adult animation. It's like, oh, that just looks boring. So
well, that's because they see Bob's Burgers and American Dad and all of those shows. And after a while, it gets to be kind of one note humor.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
But,
it's like nothing matches the parody episode of South Park that they did about Family Guy.
Oh,
because they were so dead on their critique about what Family Guy was all about, because it's
Brilliant episode.
Very brilliant. Yeah.
I like how they had dolphins with volleyballs coming up with the plot line.
Put a bunch of monkeys in a room. With a bunch of typewriters.
Ironically, monkeys and dolphins were popular in the 50s and 60s. I mean, you could literally do an entire episode about like all the TV shows that had monkeys in it.
All the TV shows that had animals in general, Lassie and Flipper and Rin Tin Tin, and
right.
Well, monkeys never go out of popularity; they're always
Doc Tari,
right.
yeah.
BJ and the Bear.
Well, that was more 70s, wasn't it? BJ
right.
and the Bear.
Well, that's but it's like.
But it's I mean, wait.
That wouldn't have happened if Every Which Way But Loose wasn't such a big hit.
I was about to mention
that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what the heck? And it's like,
everybody wanted
back,
to
I was like going,
Yep.
what the heck made Clint Eastwood want to do a movie with a monkey?
I'll put it to you this way: he came out with a career after that. So
after so many serious
the
films,
orangutan, because Clint had a career before then.
Yeah, he did.
No, he had a career, but I'm saying, can you imagine somebody nowadays try to pull off a movie like that and come out and
The
still
Rock
be
will.
able to do it? Yeah,
The Rock would do it.
The Rock
he'd
would
do anything.
Yeah.
A monkey.
Even though he needs to be Doc Savage, but probably it'll never happen.
But so you were saying, we went into morning cartoons, and that's how we lost the Flintstones.
Yeah,
But what's interesting is what you did with the 60s sitcoms. There's a lot of cartoonish stuff in their plots, in the way that they did things.
A lot of great sitcoms opened with cartoons, like I Dream of Jeannie and
right, yeah.
Bewitched.
Gilligan's Island was almost a cartoon like that. Bewitched opened with a great cartoon opening.
Filmation, I think, do a Gilligan's Island cartoon for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
And there was Gilligan's Island in outer space too.
Right, sure. That's a whole other thing. Everybody went into space.
Whole different mess.
Oh my god.
And the Shmoo was involved in Captain Caveman and
yeah.
the whole thing.
But I think, and that's what led to stuff being created, like Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones being based off, like Scooby-Doo. We talked about it before, being based off of Dobie Gillis,
right?
And and the Honeymooners was basically slapstick. I mean, you look at the Three Stooges or the Marx Brothers. It's the same. That's where that humor comes from. But
more vaudeville base type material. That's why when television happened back in the 50s, once everybody realized it was a visual medium, especially once color came in, they got outlandish on purpose, because you could show them anything that you could afford to show. So that's why Gilligan's in the bright red shirt and the captain's in a bright blue shirt. And you see those Star Treks that have been remade are in real basic primary colors. in order for it to pop on the TV. Batman's the same way. In order to pop on that TV
Oh
screen.
yeah.
Well, that's the reason why
Ginger
everybody
went white?
thinks that Dorothy's shoes are red when they're not. They're in the book. They're silver.
Yeah.
But
Right.
they did them in red because of the Technicolor, the Technicolor effect, and it just showed really well on camera.
And nothing matches that scene where Dorothy opens her cabin door and you get just barraged by all of that color. Just amazing. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Gilligan actually loans itself to a cartoon rather well.
All of those old
So,
situation comedies do. Yeah.
I mean, I think that there was a point that like a lot of these characters, like and you know how when Scooby-Doo would do like the celebrity actor, cameos and whatnot. For some reason, the one with Jonathan Winter stands out the most for me. Everybody would end up on Scooby-Doo.
It was a cartoon.
It's television's yada yada. You know?
Right.
Yeah, they cross over with the Addams Family also.
Yeah.
There were a lot of those crossovers. The kids had no idea who that actor was. It was just there. You know?
Oh yeah. Because sometimes they wanted to be on it. So
Vincent Price.
Yeah.
They just wanted to be on the show. It was such a popular show.
And it was easy money for the actor. You come into the studio for a day and say these
lines.
Thank you very much. See you.
Yeah.
You know, here's your money. There you go. It's great work. Great work, especially for a well-trained actor.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Yeah, voiceovers is a lot harder to do than people think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Something I've been wanting to do forever.
Oh yeah, it'd be a lot of fun to do. I did a couple of radio dramas. It was a blast.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Absolutely fun.
To me, that does seem hard, just simply because now you're having to act without.
That's Car 54. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Ed Gwynn. And
yeah. Fred Gwynn was in the car.
He might not have been, but he was definitely in Car 54. Yeah.
I knew about this show, but I actually got a chance to watch it. Watch a couple of episodes this past week. You know,
they used to have it on the early Me TV, early in the morning on Me TV. They'd show a couple of episodes. Yeah,
and I can't. And what's interesting, I laughed. And so these shows, it continues on. He had Tootie, who's a short one, wanted to get on somebody's fishing boat, and basically, he manipulated his way to get onto this fishing boat from this other police officer's brother-in-law, and they were supposed to go on it, and they ended up accidentally giving the guy a ticket before, so he had to go to court, so they could. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, the situation.
That's exactly. And what's funny is that there's a certain charm in the very simplistic storytelling. It's like it's just. It's kind of like how, my father would complain about like modern comics compared to the comics that he grew up with. And it was all about why are comic books today so complicated? It's like, back, the stories that I would grow up with, with Shazam, because it's like I gave him Kingdom Come as a gift and he hated that book.
Wow.
I can see that. Unless he's read anything by Bendis.
He didn't know
that's a quick read.
Comics were so complicated. And he found one of my Teen Titans. It was a George Perez. And he was just like, what is this? Why is all this going on? What's with the hair? Because it was George Perez, of course. And then he told me, and then he would tell me that's like the stories that he grew up with Shazam. It's like Dr. Sylvana would steal all the world's clocks so that nobody could tell time.
Yeah.
So I had to.
When stories meant something.
Yeah, it's I had to find the Golden Age Captain Marvel collection, and he had that. He was reading that book to the day he died. It's like that. It was just like that's what he remembered. Those very simple stories.
And oddly enough, those were the books that sold the most.
There you go. So those very simple stories, like I said, there's a certain charm to them.
There's a lot of whimsy.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of whimsy to it. You're just all brain check. You don't have to follow any. You just know this kid says a word and turns into a big red superhero.
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
superhero. So what if there's a talking alligator and a talking tiger? It
Right.
doesn't
We
matter.
don't have to.
But
Right.
that
We
doesn't
don't have to
matter.
explain that.
Talking
Now it's
wolves,
like now everybody gets their own. Everybody gets their own show on Disney Plus,
They're-
and it's about them in therapy.
They're
So-
reading a yeah, exactly.
Still
They're reading a
disappointed
serial.
Tawny the Tiger wasn't in the movie Shazam. I was very
Right.
disappointed in that.
Right.
Well, Tawny almost became a big celebrity if Fawcett had used him used him a little bit more. But he was a big pull for Captain Marvel back when he came out.
Oh yeah. Who doesn't love tigers?
But just think that Captain Marvel is also the first serial where they ran 26 episodes and come to find out the main mastermind, the main villain was a tomato worm from space that was intelligent.
Yeah.
So
Mr.
yeah,
Mind. Is that what
Mr.
it was?
Mind.
There you go. You see,
Just
it's
classic
Like, just,
whimsy stuff.
yeah.
And that's the kind of, to swing it back to the topic at hand, that's the same kind of whimsy that you'd find in a lot of these 60s sitcoms.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing pleases me more than to see the expression on my daughter's face when you try to explain to her that Hogan's Heroes was a sitcom.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
And you just get that look like, what?
Yeah.
What?
What's so
Says,
funny
yes.
about this show?
Not only that, but it was really popular.
Yeah.
Yeah. You explain to them Hogan's Heroes or F Troop, especially anybody who's socially conscious nowadays, sit in an episode of F Troop, watch them lose their mind.
Gomer Pyle for me in a heartbeat.
How dare they treat the natives like that? What?
But
Yeah.
but again, it's because that they're not watching this in the context of the time. You know,
Exactly.
it's like
Yep.
you can't. Yeah,
Today there's too much. Back then there wasn't that much. You know, even for us growing up in the 80s that saw all these, you know, in syndication, there wasn't that much for us to go off of. Now there's just so much. Everyone has a streaming service. Everyone has a TV show based on something, whether you like it or not. It's just a lot.
But that's a good point, because that's also the reason why we remember these shows. Like, what are people going? It's like what are people going to look back fondly on 10 years from now? There's so much going on right now. Like, there's so much to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
What really stands out for people? You know,
Temptation
when
Island.
it's like
Yellowstone.
when
The Kardashians.
Oh, I hope not. But then again, you know, it's like, yeah, it's like, you know, when you're binge watching Stranger Things, you can watch the whole thing in a week,
Mhm.
you know, and then it's like you're done. As opposed to having to like, you could only watch these episodes at the time that they show it,
Mhm.
you know, and this is pre VCR too.
Right.
So you had to watch it at that moment,
Oh,
or
yeah.
else you're not going to see it. So it literally was like everybody stopped.
Yep.
Everything that they were doing.
At night, that's what
You
you
know?
did. You sat in
Yeah.
front of the tube, and then you argued over which channel to watch.
Right,
And
exactly.
you only had 3.
Yeah,
So
And odds
And
are
maybe
we were the
people-
remote.
right.
no remotes back then. You had kids.
No, you had to
Well,
get
that's what I
up.
mean. Odds are we were the
Yeah.
remote.
Yeah.
You had 10
Watch
foils
it.
strung up on rabbit ears that you
Uh-huh.
had to keep trying to adjust for the outlying
Oh,
state.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
stay
Right.
right there. If you move, you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
But I would have watched you too, Mama.
Uh-huh.
But that's also why Me TV and these retro channels have such big ratings, because a lot of that material is so well done and so timeless and so well written that it'll be around for another 30, 40, 50 years. You know, I don't think outside of the fact that it's not very politically correct that Honeymooners will ever go off the air. Lucy will probably never go
I know.
off the air.
It's just
you
like,
know?
I don't know. It's like, just for some strange reason, the constant threat of domestic violence kind of like, you know, isn't humorous right now.
No.
Well, if you think about it,
Unless you watch those shows.
Uh,
Oh, to the moon.
if you think about it, every time he threatened her with violence, she just come right back at him.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you look, because
Yeah.
they were from Brooklyn. They were going to beat they were going
That's
to
it.
knock each other to the moon.
That's it exactly.
It reminds me of that
Are you and
the
JD
Andy
saw
Cap comic strips when
Mhm.
the wife would pull him out the bar and you just
Yeah.
see smoke and fists flying and
Uh-huh.
everything.
A lot of rolling pins used in those days,
Yeah.
not
But
to roll dough.
But of course, we're now diving into the 60s again, and this has been the way even since we were younger, where you would dive into the old shows to to present a new movie, and we have a new movie coming out now based on the monsters. Now,
Oh right, yeah, Rob Zombie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to be horrible, but
It looks pretty faithful
look at
to
his
the
Halloween.
original. That's
it
what
does look faithful-ish, but
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and Tim Burton's doing an Addams Family, so
well, he's
Yeah,
doing Wednesday on Netflix.
I don't know. I kind of have more faith in Rob Zombie than I do in Tim Burton, to tell you the truth.
right
Tim
now,
Burton's
I saw what
Addams
Tim
Family
Burton
was
did
pretty
to.
good.
Yeah, I saw what Tim Burton did to Dark Shadows. I've had enough of Tim Burton trying to adapt
He
any
already did
Oh,
the
original
Addams Family
stuff.
back in the 90s, and it was pretty good.
what's that?
I said Tim Burton already did the Addams Family in the 90s.
No, he
no, that
didn't.
wasn't Tim
No,
Burton.
that
That
wasn't
was
him.
That was Barry
the guy
Sonnenfeld.
that did it. Yeah,
Was it?
Yeah, Barry
Yeah.
Sonnenfeld, Pushing Daisies,
Yeah.
Oh,
Men in
okay,
Black.
yeah, okay, yeah.
and the thing about and I kind of jump on that mostly because I feel like he's an underrated director. He's
Yeah,
an underrated visionary,
Yeah.
and I think he, in my opinion, he blends the zany and kooky better than Tim Burton does, because
Yeah.
Tim Burton is all dark, but
Yeah, but
like
Tim
Barry
Burton's more-
Sonnenfeld's like suburb.
Well, you see, because the thing is, though, Tim Burton is more aesthetic than
Mm-hmm.
actual content. He just likes his shit to look spooky, but it really isn't. It's actually kind of childish if you really
At times, yeah.
Yeah.
I
A
agree
lot
with
of
Randy,
a lot of the best Tim Burton movies though are the ones that you hardly ever hear about.
Ed Wood's the best one, but
Ed Wood, Big
Ed
Fish,
Wood, yeah.
Big Fish
Oh,
is
Big Fish
amazing.
is awesome.
Fantastic
Yeah.
movie.
Big Fish was good, yeah.
Yeah, you just can't argue with Nightmare Before Christmas. Just phenomenal.
Which, mind you, he did not direct, which is a
Yeah.
huge
Oh,
misconception.
okay.
Tim Burton did not
It
direct.
was the guy that did Coraline. Directed.
Uh,
well, his name
Was it
was
the guy that
attached
did
to it.
Coraline?
He's the one
Well,
that
yeah,
brought
of
Ed.
course.
I didn't know that.
Our director wrote it, produced it.
yeah, because he was the name, so that's who they were going to attach it to. I
Well,
think.
this was
It was
all
based on his book, so
yeah.
but he didn't.
Well-
Yeah, you're right. He didn't do.
Well, he
anything with
created
that
it when he
show.
was in Disney, so Disney held on to it, and it wasn't fully functioned. It was like a poem or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Something
it was
around
like a
those
kid's
lines? Yeah.
book,
Yeah.
more or less.
But I mean, I will give him. I still I enjoy Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, and so on. And
Yeah,
so forth,
his
which
original
were
stuff
same
is
thing.
great.
Yeah, but with the Addams Family, yeah, I have to agree. I'm not quite sure how that's going to turn out. And yeah, I do have to say, as far as Monsters and Rob Zombie is concerned, yeah, I probably would put. If I was going to put money down, I'd put my money down on Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
I
I
hate
would
the
think-
Rob because he grew up with that and he loves it. That's his backbone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that stuff, horror
You know,
and the monsters
right.
and stuff like that. It's his thing.
And also Rob Zombie, he's not as easily pressured into catering to studio interference as a lot of other a lot of other directors are. So
Yeah.
he might so I kind of trust him to do like I kind of trust him with the property. I'm not sure if I'm going to go out of my way to see it, but I trust him with that more. Like I said, more than I trust Tim Burton.
Well, he is supposed to drop the trailer tomorrow, so we'll have a better idea. Because we did see it was I think it was like the second season opening where it has the new cast. They come out and they do the thing. And the only thing that I could say that worries me is not so much Rob Zombie directing, is there was something about Fred Gwynn where he was imposing but innocent, and it's what he brought to Herman Munster.
Right.
He has a great voice.
Yeah, and I'm like with watching Car 54. Where are you? He has that same. It was his atmosphere. It was. I would assume it's close to his personality.
Yeah, and even though Munsters ran a couple of seasons, he was stereotyped with that character.
He was.
Well,
yeah.
that's
For
it's like
many years.
I actually when I was working in a copy shop. My store used to be in the same building where the woman who played Ginger on Gilligan's Island used to live.
Oh boy.
And this was the angriest woman you could come across because, the fact that I called her, you're the woman who played Ginger, because she resented the shit out of the show because of that.
Yeah, whatever, kid.
And no, for real, it's like she was really, really nasty. And it's like, and it's like, look, honey, I'm sorry that you resent the show that put you on the map, but
Doesn't have a problem cashing those checks though, does she?
Right, you're only
doubt it.
living in the middle of Manhattan across the street from the United Nations.
Not that they got very many checks.
Not
that they got very many checks, because they never expected the show to last in syndication or reruns, and they never signed off on any of that. So all the DVDs and the independent media stuff and all the reruns running now, they don't see anything.
Oh well, then that might be the reason why she's angry. Then
most of those contracts back then, you got paid for the first 5 reruns, and you were done.
Right.
You didn't get any more money.
Yeah. So
maybe that's really things back then.
They didn't. Yeah. Well, they didn't know.
Well,
they had no idea that syndication would come
syndication.
out, or DVD sets would come out, or entire television channels would be dedicated to shows from that era.
I mean, it's like
never imagined that.
We're talking about like this was literally treated like a novelty. Like it's like, color TV. Oh, this. Oh, it's a novel. Yeah, it's a fad. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not surprising. That's why like nowadays it's all now it's like everybody kind of has to like think about. It's like, okay, what could possibly happen in the future that I don't want to sign away on.
Yeah.
But what's funny is you're talking about Ginger, and I don't know if Jarrett remember this because he's from around here. Donna Douglas, who lived around here, I think I was talking to Nita about this the other day. Oh yeah, see, there you go. And I just realized, her name is Donna Douglas. I always knew her as Ellie Mae. She had no problem with who she was. No. In fact, maybe a point, to a fault. In my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on how grounded they are.
From what I understand, Ginger was the same on Gilligan's Island as she was throughout all of her life. She was the same on the set too. She was very difficult to work with and just a pain.
Well, she was a superstar or whatever, So
she was a serious actress.
So was Jim Backus, but that doesn't. And While I was bedridden, I was watching Turner Classic Movies, and they had somebody walk across, young, beautiful, blonde. And the first minute she opened her mouth, I went, "Oh, that's Mrs. Howell! Holy crap!"
Mrs. Howell.
Yeah, I know.
That's Mrs. Howell. She's got a big movie career. She had an appearance in a number of movies before.
Oh my God, there was some footage of Lucille Ball when she was doing some like Ziegfeld Follies films.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, holy crap, we really are all hot at 21.
Yes. She was beautiful.
I mean, it was this whole circus theme. She was the ringmaster. Look it up on YouTube. It's just absolute. I mean, just the whole theatrical thing of it is just glorious to watch. But to realize that's Lucille Ball in all her hotness is just like, oh, hello there.
Hey, before she discovered television and decided to become a mogul.
Yeah, exactly. She knew which
incredibly
side of the
deftly well.
On.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about Mary Tyler Moore and the Dick Van Dyke Show. I mean, I think she's hot in it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, incredibly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wish she would have left herself alone and just have aged. She still would have been beautiful.
Hollywood, man. You see, that's the problem. It's like that's not a Hollywood standard, and nobody did that back then. And I think especially in that time, the studios still had control over what the actors did or what they were able to do. So it's like, you had to, there's no aging gracefully in Hollywood.
But a lot of those plastic surgery techniques come out of that Hollywood era where they figured out that, what Botox was good for, that kind of stuff.
And remember, it's better to look weird than to look old, which explains a lot of the weird that we keep saying.
Yeah.
It's true.
I think they just screw it up like Mickey Rourke. They just get to a point where they're like, well, crap, there's no reversing this shit.
Right.
He looked better as Marv.
Right.
Well, that was great. That was probably the best role he's ever had, personally.
Probably.
Yeah, but like the prosthetic, compared to his real face, he looked better as Marv, in my opinion. Other than this.
Yeah. You used to be a good-looking guy.
That's what it looks
I don't
like.
know why you thought that would look good, but
Although, if you really wanted to give the kids of today a heart attack, Breakfast at Tiffany's with
God.
particular character that
Mickey Rooney played.
Mickey
Yeah.
Rooney played.
Yep.
That
Or just go watch The Conqueror with John Wayne, who was playing Genghis Khan.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
exactly,
classic. Classic.
Yeah.
Don't ruin Mickey Rooney.
And that was all filmed out on nuclear testing grounds too. So everybody that was in that production all died young.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
They didn't know.
How
are they to know?
Yeah.
But you know what? You brought up.
Meanwhile,
the insurance company.
Meanwhile, John Landis like, I had to chop kids in half with a helicopter.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Twilight Zone.
Oh, ouch.
So anyway, with that, So, but you brought up "I Love Lucy," which made me think. I was listening to. They were talking about a certain movie with a certain god in the theaters right now, or God, or whatever they're doing now. Anyway, and they said, when did this whole idea of the oafish man come up, or the man's kind of the dolts? And somebody said, oh, well, that goes all the way back to the honeymooners. And well, that's true, but that's not even the case, because look at I Love Lucy. She would get into those clump situations too. It's just about the person able to pull off those situations.
Right.
And the oath goes back farther than that too. I'm sure there are a few in Fibber McGee and radio and that kind of stuff.
Are you talking about like the whole himbo concept? The big dumb guy?
Yeah, I guess so. It's always like for instance, like say you look at the Flintstones, it's always Barney and Fred getting into something because they
think because they're too they think they're smarter than they really are. but I think that's kind of different than a himbo. Like a himbo is kind of like a human version of like a golden retriever. Which is kind of like, I guess, how they play Thor off, that it's like, like he's kind of dumb but well-meaning, and, he's powerful when he needs to be. But the thing is, though, with the Flintstones, though, it had more to do with, like kind of like their hubris gets in the way, kind of.
Right.
A lot of these guys, they think they're smarter than they really are, and hijinks ensued.
Right.
You know what you get from the get-go. I don't know, like Thor. They set him up in the first few movies as kind of serious. There was comedic parts, but they set him up as a serious ancient god who's discovering what coffee is and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, you get Thor Ragnarok, where he's a goofy bastard.
Yeah, right.
Which okay, Ragnarok worked in my opinion. The new one, it went way too goofy. Everybody was goofy until the end, and I think it was just too much. It's good to have comic relief, but it was just too much. In my opinion.
I'm reminded of the original run of Batman films. When you say that went from serious to absolute.
Oh, that's
stupidity.
True. Yeah.
With Joel Schumacher and Arnold and that kind of thing. Yeah. Too much.
Somehow, no one knows who Batman is, but he's still able to have a credit card.
Hey, now don't wait a minute now.
Well, look, it's
you
like
can customize cards now.
American Express paid a lot for that product placement. So,
but you see, it was ahead of its time, because now you can put pictures on your credit card. See, it's kind of it's futuristic. It's what's it called? That's type of sci-fi, predictive sci-fi.
Right. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Thanks for Batman and Robin for giving us pictures on our credit cards.
Yes.
I never thought of that.
I kind of don't think that's where it comes from, but
No, I'm probably not. Probably not, but
yeah, I mean, that's great. At least you knew what you get. You got one thing, and then they were like, okay, let's change it up. Let's make the shit like it used to be, but dumber.
It wouldn't surprise me though if there isn't a scene in the Adam West Batman where he uses a bat credit card.
Oh, I'm sure there was. Well, if they had credit cards.
Was there credit card? Yeah.
No.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was that.
Might have just been coming in.
Right.
I remember him lecturing Robin on how important it was to put a nickel in the parking meter, though.
Oh, I do remember that.
because what I was reading on Wikipedia, I mean, it's like that. Because their target audience was teenagers, they want to make sure that they were respected. Yes, exactly. They were the heroes for a reason.
Yeah.
Old chums.
Still trying to figure out why there were nipples on the bat suits.
Well, that's because Joel Schumacher is gay.
That's pretty much what it was.
And I get that, but
Occam's razor. Occam's razor, my friend.
As to adjust the pressure in the suits.
Yeah.
Just a minute, Robin.
I don't know if y'all noticed, but all the shots of George Clooney's ass in that movie, there's a zipper up his butt crack.
No,
there is.
I never looked that hard.
It's kind of hard to miss.
Well, I mean, they do close-ups of it all the time.
The time in that movie.
Yeah, it's some huge thing. But anyway, and I think Joel was told by the studio to make it more kid friendly, and I think he was trying to.
Warner Brothers said we need nipples, Joel.
Right.
Well, they had a nightmare on their hands with Batman Returns.
Yes, they did.
So that's kind of why they
because that's actually my favorite. Yeah, it's like I always like the darker sequel for some reason. Same thing with Empire Strikes Back and Temple of Doom and Batman Returns. There's just something about those when they go dark on that sequel that it's like, oh, that's what I want.
Yeah, believe it or not, they went darker than the first movie.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he was still playing around with what he was going to do with the character. But he did touch on a lot of this. When you go back after you've read The Killing Joke, and you know, because I saw the movie, like it was a sneak preview when I saw the movie in the theaters, the first one years and years ago, and we're not going to talk about how many years. You can go look it up anyway.
Exactly. You guys do the math.
But when you finally do, you start reading those books where he did get that influence, and you're like, oh, I get this now. I understand what he was doing here.
Well, the books kind of fed off of the movie as well, because they went into a harder, darker tone right after the first Burton movie.
Right.
You really can't get darker than the. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You really can't get any darker than the original Bill Finger, Bob Kane stories where he's throwing people out of windows,
but nobody remembers
breaking their necks.
Yeah, nobody remembers those. That you have to go back and dig those up.
Had a gun too. Then.
Yeah.
Only for the first couple issues, then he dumped it, the gun. But that's because he was too close to the old style pulp characters that he was patterned after anyway.
Yeah.
So, and it was for kids, like you said. That's why Robin came in, just to lighten the book up.
Uncle.
Yeah.
Cousin Oliver. Watch out for Cousin Oliver.
Cousin Oliver. That's the 70s. Well, kind of the 60s. But speaking of
that is 70s, right? Brady Bunch.
Well, yes and no. I stuck with. You do have stuff that started, like, for instance, where Car 54 were RUs did start in the 50s, but it started late enough to be an influence in the 60s. And the same thing with the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch started in 69. So when we do talk about 70 sitcoms, we'll venture over into that. But so that's why I was that's how I was gearing things. So because if it's kind of like doing like with the Simpsons. You could say, oh, The Simpsons started in the 80s, but I think it started in 89, and it was late in the year in 89. So really, it's not an 80s cartoon or 80s show as much as it's a 90s show, and that's where it's, where it really made its impact. But that's how I kind of looked at it.
Now it's just holding on like a dying whale.
Even the Flintstones knew
Keep
when to
it going
let
for the
go.
sake of keeping it going.
Not necessarily.
Not
No.
necessarily, right?
They
Well, I
milked
mean,
that puppy as far as it would go. Pebbles and Bam Bam, they grew them
Oh
up.
yeah, no,
Captain
really, yeah.
Caveman.
And they've crossed Flintstones over with everybody. Jetsons.
And then they ended
I
up
like
in
that movie.
space.
I did
They
too.
became
Yeah.
cops. Again, the Shmoo and Captain Caveman was involved.
Yeah.
It's like-
So what was the green guy's name?
Kazoo.
Kazoo.
The Great
Kazoo.
Kazoo.
Great
The
Kazoo.
Great Kazoo.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So what was the brainstorming behind that character? Hey, let's add a little green alien.
My
Actually,
favorite
Martian.
Martian.
Right now,
Actually,
Star Trek.
I
Let's
want
put
to
an alien.
know why they were so obsessed with the Shmoo.
That's,
It's
well,
like
the
the little
Shmoo,
Abner thing.
the Shmoo came from Al Cap and Little Abner.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my favorite Martian was really where Gazoo came from. Look at the antenna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true. That's
Yeah,
true.
true. Yeah. And that was a pretty
Yeah, the
popular show.
Kazoo kind of did have a Ray Walston type voice,
Mhm.
also.
You know what? Ray Winston always reminded me of the Smothers Brothers for some reason.
Yeah.
Every time I saw him, I was like, "Oh, that's the Smothers Brothers." Oh no, that's Ray Winston.
That's
Okay. But this was, and that's another thing. So this came out in I think 1964, which is probably influenced by the space race that was going on at the time.
Oh yeah.
And and you kind of go, these shows, they were starting to kind of come out and like, okay, we're just going to throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. So you had this, and then you had the Hick shows, and I guess maybe that's not a
An appropriate
Here we go.
terminology.
terminology, right? The Hick shows.
Don't knock Petticoat Junction. I
never
used to watch
watched
that in syndication for
Never
years.
saw it either.
I have never seen Petticoat Junction.
And it took me up until just a couple of years ago to realize the mom who's down there in the lower right, the
Yeah.
mom on Petticoat Junction was the voice of Betty in the Flintstones.
Oh,
Is that right?
Yeah. Never realized it till I saw a picture of the Flintstone voice cast.
Oh
It's
wow!
like, well, yeah, that's the guy who did all the Looney Tunes cartoons, and that's
Your useless trivia for the day, kid.
the guy who really
This
looks
is
like
all
Fred.
useless
And then it's
trivia.
like, what's the lady from Petticoat Junction doing? Oh, she was Betty. Oh, that's crazy.
Trapped on
Okay.
Earth like Uncle Martin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Please explain to me what was Petticoat Junction about? Because as far as I know, they used
Petticoat.
to bathe in the Hooterville water supply, and that's
Then you
about
just
it.
you just mentioned that was the main push for Petticoat Junction, Hooterville.
Hooterville.
I like that place.
I'm going to say that was
Hooterville.
intentional. Was it Hooverville?
What makes you think it wasn't intentional?
I hear they make great wings.
They do. Yeah. In wait
Oh,
staff.
it's named after an owl. It's named after
No,
an
no,
owl.
of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right,
It's-
right.
it's
They
an
love
owl.
the Hooters
Yeah.
and petticoats.
Yeah,
So what?
yeah.
But what was the plot? If you were somebody asked me what Petticoat Junction was about, it's
There was a
surely
town.
not-
There was a
Yeah.
train. There was a hotel. That was it.
That's it.
And
That's
the
the-
hotel
And
was
thus-
run by a
and thus
lady who
the-
had 3 daughters, a single mom with 3 daughters,
And thus then the
and a
situation
lazy
comedy.
uncle.
The situation's
There's
insane.
always a lazy uncle.
It's always a lazy
Of
uncle,
course.
but a lazy
Always.
scheming uncle.
Ah. The country folk shows was a staple all through the 80s and beyond for CBS. Well, that's
Sure.
true too. Yeah.
Hit
Yeah, but
shows.
then you had the hillbilly stereotype that raged during that time. That's why Little Abner was so popular.
Yeah.
It's where Mountain Dew came from. Come on.
Yeah, Country Bear Jamboree, man.
Yeah, Country Bear Jamboree.
If you go up here to the Appalachian region and talk about Mountain Dew, they're not talking about soda.
No,
No.
but
Now, here's
Green
the-
Acres, yeah, came from that.
But you can explain what Green Acres is about. He gets tired of the city living. He wants to. Well, heck, tells you. Yeah,
Is that
right.
Green Acres?
That's Green Acres. Yeah,
Right, right.
absolutely.
It's
What
it's the place to be.
Yeah,
One of the first things I ever learned on guitar was to play that.
yeah.
Yeah. So, which is Zaza Gabor,
Yeah,
which really turned out to be
the
her
original,
character.
the original Kardashian.
Yeah,
By the way,
exactly.
She
That's
slapped the
fair.
top.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
She did. She
Yeah.
did. It was only a few years before she passed, too, wasn't it? It wasn't.
But
It was
that was
back in the
always a
90s.
staple. That was always a staple of those early sitcoms, is to take somebody and put them out of their element into a recognizable element. Genies, witches, rich people,
Right.
or
Hillbillies.
poor people that hit it rich with the
Hillbillies,
Beverly
right.
Hillbillies. Yeah,
yeah.
Because
And
Beverly
that's-
Hillbillies was just the opposite of Green Acres.
yeah.
Yeah. Link to Petticoat Junction. Now you talked about this the other day, didn't you, Randy? About Green Acres and Petticoat Junction, and even Beverly Hill. Was it Beverly Hillbillies that would cross over?
No, the Green Acres was in or around Hooterville.
Ah, okay.
And it spun off from Petticoat Junction. Petticoat Junction was a big show for CBS when it came out.
Hooterville sounds like a better place to live.
It is. It is.
All you have to do is watch the opening, and you realize that if you're a straight male, it is a much better place to live.
Just watch out for those HOA fees.
We'll get you every time.
I don't know. But she had a pig that could fly a plane. I mean, really.
Wilbur.
You know,
Who wouldn't want that?
is it Wilbur?
Yeah,
Yeah, Wilbur. That's why I was thinking the name was Arnold.
Could be. Yeah, you're right. Arnold.
I think it's Arnold, right? Yeah.
Wilbur
yeah.
was the guy who ran with Mr. Ed. Little
Oh, yeah.
Wilbur.
Yeah.
Wilbur.
Wilbur's
Oh,
also the
Wilbur.
pig from
Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web.
Charles Webb.
Yeah.
But this was a fun show too, because this was another one. My mother hated this show. She hated the show, and so whenever it came on, I never got to watch it. When I finally got to watch it a couple of years back, I was like, "This is actually a pretty good show."
All of them were incredibly during that period were really well written because all these writers came right off of radio.
That's interesting.
Why'd she
So-
hate it?
She felt it was stupid. I think it was probably the pig.
Pig drove her
the way
crazy.
He's a
Huh?
pig
Wow.
today, yeah.
Well, if you do,
Take
It's
a pig serious.
unrealistic.
You can't take it seriously.
All you got to do is listen to Zsa Zsa Gabor's voice and know that it wasn't realistic.
oh my gosh,
absolutely. I don't know why I'm remembering this one particular scene where Zsa Zsa, I don't know, it's like she's welcoming, like, I don't know, like she ran out of bread and she wanted to make breakfast for the neighbors. So all she had was ingredients for pancakes. So she made pancake sandwiches. So it was like a pancake with a pancake in between it and another pancake on the top.
That explains the latest rage at Cracker Barrel. Cheesecake pancakes.
Yeah, there you
Is
go.
that right?
Well, it
Oh
is
my
Cracker
God.
Barrel. Yes, it is.
What is Cracker Barrel?
Cracker Barrel is very nice. Thank
Cracker
you.
Barrel,
It's very nice. I highly recommend it. It's probably the best convention food.
Comfort food, yeah. Warm.
Yeah, convention. Yeah, it's like because every time we go to a
It's like
convention,
hospital food.
it's like we always go, "Where's the nearest Cracker Barrel?" It's the only time we have Cracker Barrel is when we go to a convention.
So okay, so you had your hillbilly shows, you had your you had your situation comedies like Gilligan's Island, real far out, but then you also now surely people had to be protesting this show, right?
Never. Why?
Because it's witches in the 1960s.
That's
See,
Well,
we grew up
that
in the
was back
80s,
when moms were a
even-
lot more tolerant of
Yeah.
this kind of witchery and stuff. It might not
Like-
have played as well in the South, but
Back
everybody
then it would
laughed
come
at it.
on and the moms already started drinking a little bit, so they're like, "Oh, I totally relate to this show."
Look, it's like you know, it all. It's like look, you know, it's like yeah, it's a little schnapps, a little Valium, you know. You know, mommy's little helper. You know.
But you know
Well,
what?
the witch
Tolerant
part
of a lot
wasn't
of
really the witch part wasn't really like focused on. It was mainly just the magic part, so that could have been
Mhm.
it.
Well, they
Oh,
weren't
no.
sitting around worshiping Satan. If you were to do
Yeah.
Bewitched today, there'd be all sorts of little
Yeah.
demons running through it.
And I
she
would
had,
watch the
she had
hell out
crazy,
of that.
yeah, she had crazy aunts and uncles. That's Sabrina
I mean,
on
it's
Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, it's like look at I Dream of Jeannie. I mean, it's like she's wearing that little crop top and
You did.
Oh, God,
with her little.
Well, that got her
Orientalist
into a lot of
thing
trouble
going
at
on.
times
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That was
because
me.
they had to raise it because I think at one point it showed her belly button.
They
They
Yeah.
had
couldn't.
to
Yeah.
raise it.
Yeah.
Yep,
just
they
to-
couldn't show her
to
navel.
censor
That was a
it.
no-no in the '60s.
Yeah.
Which
Too much
I
That was
never
that was a-
understood
Yeah.
that.
So
because
more-
I've
that was a
never
sex
looked at
organ.
it.
It was a sex organ back then, Mitch.
Yeah.
How?
Still is.
You can't do anything with it.
It's-
It's
It
a
was a
belly
navel.
button.
It's
Or you
because
could
you're
lick
not. It's because you're not creative
The
enough and
things you
haven't
can
read
do with
enough
a belly
hentai.
button. So.
Exactly.
That
Yep.
reminds me of that Weird Al
That's it
Yankovic
exactly.
video, Amish Paradise, where they got the little Amish boys looking at like the Playboy for Amish people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're just showing her ankle. And
Yeah.
they're like checking out. Oh my gosh. Oh, but you know what? The most unrealistic thing about Bewitched to me wasn't the magic. It was the fact that he was such a stick in the mud. The husband, it's
made it
like,
work.
oh my gosh.
I made it work.
You know?
Made it work. Yeah. It's the extremes that really work.
Right. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
And
but
all of her
relatives.
relatives were nuts.
Well, I mean, he was the straight man in the in the
Right.
series. Oh yeah, yeah. Absolutely. But
you always knew it was going to be a great episode when Aunt Beasley showed up and her doorknob collection. She tucked in.
I couldn't even keep it.
Oh,
No, I did.
Amazing.
No, I did watch I Dream of Jeannie for whatever reason.
We all did.
And I can understand, and I think the difference for me, I can't remember what his name, Colonel
Major Healy.
Major Healy, that's what it was. Yeah. The difference
J.R.
between Major
Ewing.
Healy and
J.R. Ewing.
Garrett.
Yeah.
Oh, sure was. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a contrast.
I didn't watch.
Oh, you just
I didn't watch
connected that.
that.
did you?
Yes,
That's
I did
JR,
not.
man.
It did not even.
Chris's
I did
brain
not
is
realize.
everywhere. Now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't watch Dallas. I could give it.
And the guy that
amazing.
played the
Yeah.
nephew in My Favorite Martian also played David Banner in the Hulk show.
Yeah.
Right.
Just,
Yeah.
you know, in case you didn't know that. Also.
Oh, that could be. No, I didn't really pay
Well, he
that much
took-
attention to that. But I think
He took the J.R. Ewing role because it was against his type. Because of I Dream of Jeannie, typecast him as a comedy guy, and here was a chance to do drama. He jumped at it.
Right. Yeah.
and he was so much older at that point in time.
Well, that too, but you know.
No, I can see it now when I hear it, but I didn't.
Some of the
put
best
it together.
comedians make great dramatic actors.
No, absolutely.
Oh, this is true.
That's
Oh, yeah.
The guy
why.
that played
That's
Gilbert,
why
I can't
Bill
remember his
Murray.
name, but he was a
that's
serious
what-
actor.
Yeah, that's why Bill Murray was devastated when he lost the Oscar to Lost in Translation.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like, yeah, that was like his first. Like that movie was supposed to prove that he was a serious actor, and he lost it to I think Sean Penn. Not
Well,
Sean.
he had
Yeah.
tried that a few years earlier with
Yeah.
Razor's Edge and didn't get any notice from it.
Yeah.
So,
And this was like,
Yeah.
you know, and what's funny is that like Billy Crystal was like, look, just be glad you didn't lose it to a Hobbit because Lord of the Rings was sweeping that year. So it's like, at least you lost
Right.
to Sean Penn.
But Razor's Edge, he ended up doing that movie. He was able to do that movie because he did something else that he didn't really want to do. Was it Stripes? That he agreed to
years
do
earlier.
something.
that was
Yeah, but he-
Stripes was,
That was at the
not
beginning.
much earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he agreed to do one of the comedic movies. Maybe it was
Stripes was
Meatballs.
about 30 years.
Wow.
No,
you
not
could do-
Lost in Translation. I'm sorry,
No.
not Lost in Translation.
Right, yeah.
Talking about what'd you say, Razor's Edge?
Yeah.
Oh,
That
Lost
was
in
one.
Translation was really an independent movie, very
Yeah.
low budget.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about Lost in Translation. I'm talking about Razor's Edge. He did that movie. He was able to do that movie because he agreed to do. I can't remember if it was Meatballs or one of the other
One of his
comedic
other
movies.
screwball comedies, probably
Yeah.
Caddyshack, knowing how things
It
ran.
could be. It could
Yeah.
be.
Especially
But-
Caddyshack, because a lot of those actors couldn't get along with each other on the set. That's
Oh,
why a lot of the
Especially him and
scenes are
Chevy
shot
Chase.
separate from everybody else. Yeah.
That's crazy. Jesus Christ.
That's what happens when you make a movie full of assholes.
Yeah. well,
It was a lot of assholes in that movie.
of course, then they married her off, and she eventually.
Speaking of
was eventually-
Caddyshack,
But
I
yeah.
have Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
But and what I would say is, as far as Major Healy, I could take Major Healy over Darren. Darren's was just a stick in the mud because Samantha wasn't, she wasn't clumsy or anything like that.
No, her
But-
entire family was just gay.
Yeah,
Plus, yeah, but that was the magic. But plus you have
Dumb
to
and
ask.
naive and pretty.
Subtext.
Plus yeah, Paul Wynn.
Especially-
Anyway, and Andorra. Well,
Yeah.
anyway.
oh
Um,
gosh.
Plus, then you also have to ask which Darren, because Dick York's acting style was completely different from Dick Sargent.
Yeah, but even what they were both
That's
sticking
the West.
sticks in the mud one way or another.
Well,
Well,
Dick
Who was
York
it?
was a lot
Dick
more
York
of a
was
comedic
like-
actor than when Dick Sargent
Yeah.
came on. Things started getting a lot more serious.
maybe that's what it was. But for Major Healy, for
Double dick,
her
more
and what he dealt with her, trying to stop her from using her magic, whatever the
Mhm.
case was, made more sense to me than Darren and Bewitched. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is more palatable to me than even Bewitched, because I wasn't really a Bewitched fan. I knew it. I watched maybe a couple episodes,
Right.
whatever. And maybe if I understood the subtext, I would be more.
I think it was more of a housewife show.
And a
Right,
lot
yeah.
of a lot of I Dream of Jeannie comes out of her not knowing the mores of society too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Again, the whole fish out of water thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
and-
Absolutely.
By the way, before just a really quick shout out to Patrick and Pops in the chat. Hello,
Yep.
welcome. Thank you
Hey,
for
Bob.
showing up.
Hey, yo.
But, well, anyway, let's go ahead and take. With that, we'll go ahead and take a couple of bumps, and then come back and discuss some more.
Okay.
Bump,
All
bump.
right, bump, bump. Now, if you told me there's a war on your mail, I might believe you. Then I'd suggest arming those precious crowdfunded creations with Gemini mailers. And since there is a war on gas prices, I'd also tell you to use the discount code RAGIN2 to save yourself 5% on all the Gemini mailers. So get over there and just type in RAGIN2 to earn 5%. And also, we love questions on Ragin 2, any type of questions. Again, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Of course, our answers might be, and we always love to hear from you. So get a chance. Send us an email. Who knows? It might be featured on one of our shows, and it might even be part of the discussion. Let's see.
Always
All right.
more than happy to answer questions.
Why were not Jeannie and her relatives blue like the blue Jin?
So that would make the blue Jin less unique.
He wouldn't be.
Oh.
He would just be the
Right.
Jin.
Also, they saved money on makeup.
Paint back then had a lot of lead. So
yeah.
That's very true, too. Yes.
Exactly.
they didn't realize it, but it was, saving on health issues as well. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. So, what do you think would be, as far as creators going forth and creating, if we were to pull something from 60s sitcoms, what would be the best thing to pull from it? Would it be that situation comedy? Would it just be that simplicity? What do you think would be one thing that we could use to inspire us to create?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think the humor, they weren't really afraid to touch certain bases, even if it was just an innuendo. They weren't afraid.
Well,
There was a
actually,
lot
they
of-
were afraid because there
Well,
was.
that's why it was a lot of innuendos.
Right. Yeah.
You couldn't outright say certain things.
Well, they had censors. They had
Yeah.
boards that went through and said
Yeah.
that joke, you can't say that or whatever.
Can't
When
show
they
a
went
belly
through
button.
read-throughs, yeah. You can't
They
show
made-
a belly button. That kind of
Yeah, they
stuff.
made married couples sleep in separate beds.
Right.
True.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like they couldn't like another thing with Lucille Ball is that she was the first woman to actually be shown pregnant on TV.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was a
Even
big
though
thing.
they tried to hide it, she was like
Mhm.
going, no, because she was actually pregnant. And
Yeah.
they wanted to hide it and they wanted to put sofas in front of her and stuff. And she says, no, we're going to do it.
You got to
know,
give
I'm
it up to her anyway for being basically the first showrunner, female
Yeah.
showrunner too.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of shows that wouldn't have existed without her.
All the Desi-Lou Studios
Yeah.
designations all came out of her and Desi. So
Mhm. I mean, but
He was a
just the
genius.
fact that you couldn't
So they
even
were both
show,
incredibly smart. Yeah.
you couldn't show a pregnant woman
Mhm.
on TV. Like you just couldn't
Right
show
there.
a pregnant
Just
woman,
crazy.
period.
Because you weren't supposed to
Yeah.
explain where kids came from back then.
Right.
And I
on
liked it
TV.
when people kissed back then because it was just lips on lips. It wasn't like where
It was a little
Yeah.
full
you
on
see people
tongue.
today where they're like you see
dry
saliva
humping.
and crap.
Yeah.
Like,
Which for Lucy though, they were married though in real
Yeah.
life, so it kind of really,
Still, yeah.
That's how Desi was able to get the part. Is they
Oh, really?
insisted that he played
Lucy, yeah,
Desi
just
on
the guy
on
for
the
the role.
show, or else
Which
they
is-
would have never let a Cuban guy with that thick of an accent.
that's
be a
true.
husband on
Because
the
he
show.
only got
Very
his
true.
job because he was
He had to
sleeping
fight
with
for
the
that role.
creator.
Yeah, exactly.
It still
That's
happens
true,
today.
though.
Look at Rob Zombie and Sherry Moon.
Yeah.
I just find it ironic that the running gag on I Love Lucy was that she was trying to use Ricky's club as a way to try
For
to
her
get
in.
for her to get like
Yeah.
an actress. Like I always remember her like going like that she thought that once she was in the club, all she needed was one producer to go, that's the girl I want, and it's like all she had to do is just be. It's like, no, I think being an actress requires a little bit more than that, Lucy.
Yeah, I think it's funny that a successful club owner and his wife, the only friends they ever have is an old couple.
this is the old couple friend.
Right.
It's the only ones they could trust.
Yeah.
Huh.
It was a small building,
It's very small.
But okay, but was it I can't remember their names, but the old couple they were on the
Fred
TV
Neville.
show.
And,
Fred Nethel.
Fred Nethel.
Ethel.
Right.
Again,
But they were-
another real life actor couple that hated each other.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So did it work well on TV?
Yeah, they
That
bicker and
seemed to
argue.
be a theme. That
Yeah, they
seemed
had
to be a
nothing
theme
nice
with
to
a
say
lot of
about
those
one another.
shows. Yeah.
Well, plus they were always at odds in their comedy. They
Oh, yeah.
hated each other openly.
Right.
I think that's why it worked so
Yeah.
well because you didn't realize it at the time.
Well, they were all both of them were well trained, longtime
Thespians.
actors anyway. So yeah, when it came to hitting a mark and saying a line, they knew how to do it.
Like their professionalism overcame
Yeah.
their baggage.
So you mentioned Mary Tyler Moore on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Was that? And I might be wrong. Is that the first time that we've seen something? Because with Dick Van Dyke, he was a writer of a show, and so you
Yeah.
basically saw the writers' room. Is that the
Mhm.
first time we saw that? Because we've seen that in several different comedies since. 30 Rock, Seinfeld, in fact, started with the idea of him gathering his material for his stand-up.
Yeah.
Is Dick Van Dyke the first one to kind of
Right.
feature that behind the scenes?
Pretty much. And Dick Van Dyke come
Yeah.
in at the last minute almost because Carl Reiner originally pitched that show as him in the lead.
Carl Reiner, really?
Yeah, because it's based on his life.
It's based on his
Carl
life.
Van Dyke didn't sound as good.
Back when he was no, they were able to get Dick Van Dyke because he came off of a bunch of movies at that point, and they were real happy that it's the Dick Van Dyke Show. They're
Oh yeah, yeah.
they were real happy to have him, but plus he's again consummate actor as well.
It
But
wasn't
Carl
one that-
Reiner was coming off of Your Show of Shows. He was a background writer along with what's his name, Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks, yeah.
Mel Brooks and a
Okay.
number Sid
Yeah.
Caesar worked on that, was the lead on that show actually. It's Caesar and Imogene Coca.
Wasn't the main reason why Carl Reiner wasn't cast because he was Jewish or something?
Well, isn't it ironic? But isn't it ironic that all of these a lot of these sitcoms, especially when we go into like the 70s, like a lot of these shows that kids today like talk about like being all offensive and shit. It's like, yeah, they were all written by Jews who were collaborating with Black comedians.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like
a lot of
those-
a lot of black comedy out of those clubs.
right, and it's like, yeah, so
Sammy Davis.
these are the
I-
ones that are offensive.
I don't
Yeah,
think
right.
I don't think it
Yeah,
was the
right.
fact that I don't think it was the fact that he was Jewish as much of he didn't look good in a toupee. And that
Yeah.
became a running gag on the show.
Yeah.
He was just too
Yeah.
old to take that kind of a lead. Plus, once Dick Van Dyke became available, it was a no-brainer.
But yeah, I
And
mean,
also-
Dick Van Dyke. He
was
could,
the pratfalls, the pratfalls kind of like a thing too,
Again, another
or like he
standover
used to
from
not.
slapstick
Yeah.
comedy from vaudeville.
right?
You know,
Yeah.
him tripping over that couch is iconic.
Right.
Oh,
that-
yeah, and the stool, yeah.
The stool, yeah.
But of course, you'd have to watch it to see if he was going to trip over it or if he would
Yeah.
sidestep it.
Yeah.
You never knew what was going to happen. Sometimes he stopped, walk around it. Sometimes he just missed it entirely.
So yeah, so
and just
I
trip over
wouldn't think
it.
that Carl Reiner would want to put
Could
himself
be able to pull
through
that off. Yeah.
No.
And here's a little. Actually, Lucy did have that moment where they wanted to hire her over Ricky, so they had to put that in there. That was towards the end, I'm sure, something like that. But no, I never knew that about Carl Reiner and the Dick Van Dyke Show. But again, you take Dick Van Dyke. He's a younger guy. He's known for his physical.
He was their big boss. That was the boss they were always writing for.
Yeah.
It was Carl Reiner. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did he ever show up on the show?
Yeah,
All the time,
a few
yeah.
times.
All the time?
Yeah.
So-
Was it Alan? What was the show? The showrunner, the guy's name on the show? It was Alan something. That Carl
The bald
Reiner
guy?
played. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what his name was from the show.
There's
but-
two bald guys because the producer of the show that would always get on to Dick Van Dyke and his crew for doing
Yeah.
something, they'd always make fun of him for being bald.
Mhm. I'm sure there were a lot of bald jokes
Nothing
flying
wrong with
on that
bald
set.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, well. They were probably the ones writing them themselves.
Really though, the first real bald lead was Kojak
Yeah.
or Picard, you know.
Telly
And even then,
Actually,
Savalas
would be
wouldn't
Yul
grow
Brynner.
hair and-
I would think Yul Brynner would have been.
he didn't have a lead on
first.
TV though.
Well, no, but he was like the first bald superstar kind
No,
of.
there's a lot of pictures out there with him with a full head of hair.
Ah.
His really big shave was for the King of Siam, King and
King and I. When did that come out? King and I.
Early 60s, I think.
I think so. Deborah Kerr, Yul Brynner, classic movie.
56.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was also
50
bald
Cent.
in. No, that wasn't him and Andy. Never mind. For some
But
reason,
even-
I thought it
His
was
best
Andy.
role was Westworld. We already know that and 10 Commandments.
Oh yeah, he was bald in Ten Commandments.
Well, that's how I would know Yul Brynner is not necessarily as an actor, but he's a bald actor.
Yeah.
And that guy in Cool Runnings was named after him. Anyway, so anyway, but yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead around the room and tell everybody where we can find each other.
Oh.
And
Oh, where can I find myself?
We didn't even mention Hogan's Heroes. Come on. Or just
okay,
one.
well, let's talk about Hogan's
Yeah.
Heroes.
Andy
I did
Griffith.
not. Oh, this
Best
is true.
show, best
What a great
sitcom
show.
of the '60s, in my opinion.
Was what?
Andy Griffith.
Andy Griffith.
Oh yeah, classic. Yeah. And again, another hillbilly show.
Well, Andy Griffith was spun off of the Danny Thomas Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then
One of the points they made on Facebook recently was the reason Andy Griffith, the whole town, was so happy is everybody was single.
That's
Yeah,
true.
too.
wait a minute.
There was an interview with Don Knotts, I think not too long before he passed, where they were talking about how wholesome the show was.
Magnificent
And he-
Seven, yeah, classic Yul Brynner movie also.
and,
Meanwhile,
uh,
everyone was like swinging in that town.
Did Hogan's Hero
Well, he
beat?
did.
No.
He did
No, he couldn't.
mention it that when someone I was talking about how wholesome the show was, he was like, have you noticed how Barney Fife is always going to Thelma Lou's house to watch TV, but when you see her home, there's no TV? He was like,
Yeah,
The original Netflix and chill.
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
The fact that Barney can get a chick, you know.
Right.
Oh,
yes.
he
it's
got
for everyone.
around. If you watch the show, when he was with Thelma Lou, he was also chatting up Juanita down at the diner.
He was a horn
Like
dog.
Randy
Yeah.
said, they were all single. you
They were
know,
all
Yeah,
single.
getting
exactly.
mingle.
Yeah, exactly. They were all trading keys.
Yeah.
It's
Well, they
just a
didn't have
larger
to,
version
they
of the
locked their
villages.
doors.
Yeah, in Florida. Sure.
Back then, they could
So-
walk to each other's house. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They,
of
they
course,
left them all unlocked.
Thelma Lou, is that pie that you're cooking? Come on in and find out.
Oh, I can smell that pie all the way from Andy's.
Ah,
well, that show has made itself
So
even in today's society is still a staple of what is idealistically American.
Small town America. Yeah.
Small town America.
Where everyone is single and swinging.
Yeah. Everybody's slinging. Yeah, there you go.
There we
I
are.
mean, the town drunk locks himself up.
Sounds
The
like a
cops don't
song.
have to go chase him down.
Just made it easy for Andy. Yeah.
I remember, what was it? The one that, like, Barney did a U-turn, and was it Gomer? Gomer said
Yeah.
he was going to make a citizen's
Citizen's
arrest.
arrest. Citizen's arrest.
So what
Gomer-
made that character so popular to give him his own spinoff?
Gomer
It's
Pyle.
the accent. It's the
Yeah.
accent.
Golly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was kind of a grown man child.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think
Yes, he
that's
was.
part-
That's why he started saying Shazam all the time.
Yeah.
That's to keep that Captain Marvel link running. Yeah.
Which really worked humor wise when he joined the Marines. Was it the Marines or the Army?
It's a Marine.
You know, that kind of rigid structure, and you have this guy who's basically, like I said, a man child.
Mhm.
Constantly getting into
Again,
situations.
it's
How'd
that
you-
fish out of water motif. You take a
Right.
guy who's set in a small town America and stick him in with the big armed forces. See how he does. But there were a lot of shows and comics back then that were like that. Sad Sack, Beetle Bailey, that kind of thing. So McHale's Navy, there's another good example. Absolutely.
And those kind of, I think that kind of spins off of the Phil Silver show, huh?
Yes.
Sergeant Bilko and
Well,
all that.
Phil was in it. Yeah.
Good
That was a
stuff.
movie originally, and then they turned it into a sitcom.
Mhm. Yeah, he never went.
Never did. No. They skirted that problem. That would have made it too political at the time because Vietnam was such a hot button topic. That was probably one of the reasons why the show didn't last as much longer than it did.
Well, I know that there are some rumors about him behind the scenes that really kind of hurt his career in the long run.
And he openly came out towards the end of his life, though, right?
I don't know if he
Pretty
came
sure he
out at the. He might have at the end of
I'm
his life,
pretty sure he
but because you didn't do that kind of thing back in
No,
the
you
Hollywood in
didn't.
1960s,
Yep.
and you can't go and say, "Oh, I'm related to Samantha." You had to, So
There's
that
an
kind of
entire
thing.
season of the Paul Lynde show out there where he's the dad of the family. So it's
Oh,
very
really?
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Very weird.
It's just funny to think that.
So when you see him on Hollywood Squares, you just know.
Look, when you saw him on the show, you just know.
Yeah.
On
Like
Bewitched,
fact
yeah, he
that-
was like
the
that on
fact
Bewitched.
that when
too. Very
Liberace
flamboyant.
died, there were people who literally I didn't know he was gay.
Yeah,
What, Liberace? It's like, what?
shocking.
Yeah, you just know. There's some people you just know.
Yeah.
They say,
Have
well,
you
I
ever
think it
seen
was more
the?
aging out of the
it was
role wasn't
aging.
helping. Yeah,
That
maybe so.
Did you ever see the Paul Lynde Halloween special?
I can't say that I have.
Oh, oh God, that's prime entertainment. I've never done acid, but watching
Oh my
that show, I
God.
think that's what acid is like.
All right.
What is this again? I'll tell you. Hold on.
The Paul Lynde Halloween special.
I don't think I've ever seen
Wow.
that.
I haven't seen
I
it.
can't say I've ever seen it either.
That's on YouTube for free if you ever.
I will check it out
If
and
you're
I'll let you know.
interested. It's got-
I'll have to look that up.
It's got a
Something that's popped up on my recommended list lately on YouTube are old episodes of Hee Haw.
Oh God.
Oh my
Yes.
God, funny,
Yeah, we go,
absolutely
I grew up
funny,
watching
just
Well,
amazing.
It's like when,
Yeah.
when you were binge watching. Oh my God, I forgot the name. The one with Goldie Hawn in it. The show.
Laughing.
Laughing.
Yeah.
Laughing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Also classic stuff, and a lot of that stuff you'd never get away with today either. A lot of that
It's
humor
like-
is all pretty
A
shocking.
lot of
when you-
all that. Oh
when
yeah,
you look
know,
at
it's
it,
like
yeah.
all that, like you know what it is. It's kind of like that little
Yeah.
body humor. But again, it's like I guess it's kind of like the last vestige of
it's
of
not just
vaudeville. You know,
Yeah.
it's very body humor. You know, it's kind of like Benny Hill type of shit.
they even did an episode where everybody was in blackface
Right. Well, yeah.
except for the black
Really?
guy. He was in whiteface.
Which I guess would have been the joke, wouldn't it?
Yes,
you
I
know?
was
fine with
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When you talked about, you said earlier the 1960s, you could do what you want.
Yeah.
Wait till we get to the 70s. Because in the 70s,
yeah.
now you're dealing with Sanford and Son. Now you're dealing with All in the Family. Now you're dealing
Right.
with the Jeffersons.
Yeah,
Now you're starting
getting
to
into more
really start
socially
to-
relevant comedy too.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Exactly. I mean, it's like, yeah, that was a lot. Again, it's like that's where it's like collaboration with Black comedians really came to a head.
Absolutely.
And it's like and it was really showing up in a lot of the shows. That
Who'da
again,
thought-
that
who'da
now
thought Red-
everyone says, "Oh, that's problematic," and it's
Right,
like,
right.
oh, it's kind of funny.
But it
Because
was
who would have
doing
thought
that.
Red Fox could carry a sitcom
Right.
Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
exactly.
on
They
national
weren't even
television?
sure.
Yeah.
They weren't
Yeah.
even sure you could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is it was a response. Again, like I said, it's 1960s civil rights movements, the abolishment of Jim Crow laws, and now things are starting to come open, and now we're dealing with stuff openly instead of
Right.
hiding it or hiding behind our
Yeah, you
prejudices.
dealt with
And it's
real
like, the thing is,
thematic
like,
issues.
and Sanford and Son, like the foundation of the theme is the Watts riots.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like,
Everything was real, but they made it funny.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you could relate to it a little bit better.
It's like Hogan's Heroes. Yeah.
Speaking of Hogan's Heroes, okay, I have never
It's
watched an
funnier than
episode of
war.
Hogan's Heroes.
Oh my God.
You've
Really?
never?
Now,
It's
as
all-
far
it's-
as I know, it's
They still
basically
play that
based
on
off the
TV.
it's basically based off of The Great Escape. Am I wrong?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Or not? No,
I
you're
have
not
watched The
wrong.
Great-
Pretty much.
Okay.
Are you wrong? Yes.
I-
You are
yes.
very wrong.
You are. You're
You're
very
I
very
understood what he meant. I understood what he meant.
But again, with that show, you're dealing with so many stereotypes. You'd never see that out today, let alone the political correctness that the humor entailed. I mean, the Nazis were idiots.
They were Nazis.
Yeah.
They were,
Well, the fact that they were.
but they were
Nazis.
definitely
You can make fun of
everybody was
Nazis
poked fun
today.
at except for Hogan. Hogan was the only one that was totally and always in charge, and he was the American. You know, the rest
Yeah.
of the cast on that show was supposed to be international, well, pretty close to international. They had a black guy on
It's
there
safe
from
to say you can make fun of Nazis
the
today.
South? Yeah, you could, but not like that. No,
No.
you never see a dumb German guard going
Couldn't
around. I
call
know
it
nothing.
sauerkraut.
I know nothing. You know,
See, when I think about it, and I don't. One show that I remember watching when you had the dumb Germans or the dumb Nazis was Hello Hello, which was a BBC program.
Mhm.
You know, so that's what I think about when I think of Hogan's Heroes. I've never watched it, so I kind of figured it was those type of dumb Germans.
do you have Me TV where you're at?
Yeah.
Just need to sit and watch that for a couple of days.
I
You'll
got
see it.
YouTube. I'm sure I can find it on YouTube. The only thing I could not find on
Probably the
YouTube.
opening.
Yeah, the only thing I could not find on YouTube was the Munsters, and considering the fact that the Munsters is so huge
Mhm.
and it still carries on, is under copyright. So
Yeah, they might have gone through and copyright struck a lot of that stuff. So
Yeah.
pulled
Also,
it
with the movie coming out, it's like they probably pulled everything. You know.
and another great '60s situation comedy we haven't mentioned, or at least mentioned much, is F Troop.
Yeah.
Amazing show. Never see it done today. Never. But
the
just
only
great,
thing I
great
can
stuff.
tell you about F Troop is
Apparently, you
Ken
can
Berry
watch the Monsters on Peacock.
on
Monsters?
Peacock.
Yeah.
And they probably
Apparently, yeah.
lifted. That's probably why you can't find it on YouTube.
They're probably right. Yep. They went
Well,
through
you
and
know-
copyright struck everything. Pulled it off.
Well, you know, there was going to be a series that had Jerry O'Connell of the Sliders, or
Oh, I've
or,
seen. Oh God.
or if you don't know him, he was the fat kid in Stand By Me,
Mhm.
and
He was-
they were
he
going to
was
do
fluffy.
a Monsters reboot. They've been trying to do Monsters reboot for years and years
Sure.
and years.
Yeah.
And it was called Mockingbird Lane. And I think
Have you
it's
seen
just-
it?
That
Uh-uh.
might actually
Is
be
it out
on
there?
YouTube.
They only did a pilot, and they released the pilot a few years ago. It's bad.
Yeah.
Is it
they
really?
they instead of making a comedy out of it, they try to make a family drama.
Oh, Jesus.
Out of
I
it.
hate it when they do that. Everyone's in
Make-
therapy.
Yeah, well, and like,
Wasn't on
Yeah,
Disney
like-
Plus.
and none of them look like monsters. They all look like human beings. Like
Then what's the
Jerry
point?
O'Connell only has like stitches when he takes his shirt off, but but if he's wearing clothes, he looks just like a regular guy. And it's
It's a great way to kill a concept.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever came up with that idea is an idiot.
Well, because like
why
that's
I
what
didn't get
happens
past
when
the
you have
pilot.
a budget
Yeah.
of zero and
True.
non-commitment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a rumor that goes around the guy that created. Let me see if I can find it because I found it earlier. That created Beanie and Cecil, And
Bob
19 in the
Clampett.
19 Yeah, Clampett. Thank you.
Mhm.
Man, why can't I remember Clampett? I should have remembered that.
Beverly Hillbillies.
Actually came up with the concept for the Munster family, and it was sold to NBC, or it was told to NBC. They were developing it, and then he never heard about it again. And then a few years later, a couple other people surfaced with it, and that's how it kind of came out. But it basically,
That's very likely.
and if that's true, then that's close to the universal monsters that you see, or what their monsters are really based off of.
Well, there wouldn't have been a Munsters if there hadn't been an Addams family.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. Is if I'm not mistaken, they were both released the same year.
Yes, they were. But
Yeah,
Charles Addams cartoons had been out for years before that. In the New Yorker.
Yeah.
And
Since the 20s, right? The 20s or 30s? Was that when they started?
I believe it's the 30s. Yeah.
Hugh
It was
Hefner, he said
1938.
that one of his regrets was not being able to get Charles Addams for Playboy
I'm sure. Yeah.
because Charles Addams had an exclusive deal with the New Yorker.
Oh, really?
Well, once you're in the New Yorker, you're pretty much in the New Yorker.
Yeah, exactly.
So once they take you in, you're in.
Mhm.
So I had a buddy who's a single panel cartoonist, and he said that the New Yorker was one of the few magazines he was never in because he wasn't from there.
Mm.
And that was a big reason for him not getting in.
In fact, that's what I thought. The Addams Family premiered only 6 days before Munsters did.
Yeah, well, they probably started production close to the same time or thereabouts, but the Charles Addams, that somebody in Variety probably said we're doing a show off of the Charles Addams cartoons, and somebody dug up the Bob Clampett
That's a possibility,
treatment
yeah.
and just ran with it with Universal or whoever.
I mean, that's pretty common. It's like when something,
Very
I guess
common.
when a studio is about to release something that they think is going to be popular, that other studios rush to get out copycats
Yeah.
at the same time. So that's
Just look at DreamWorks and Disney.
right, exactly. They're always, sniping each other. Remember
The X-Men and Doom Patrol.
right?
Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
when everybody was releasing like Meteor movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too.
Deep Impact.
Yeah.
Rock and roll
Armageddon.
biographies. Hey,
Yeah.
yeah.
There is a thing.
Everything
I
runs in
remember-
waves.
I can't remember. I was looking at don't ask me what it was. Guidelines for submission, and one of the things that they had said is sometimes everybody there.
Yeah.
Everything kind of
Are you
went
grinding?
quiet on me.
Oh, no, I'm here.
No, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
But one of the things they said was, don't be surprised if your submission isn't accepted, because sometimes we'll get a whole bunch of ideas at the same time that are all like each other.
Oh yeah.
And nobody's coming off of anything else.
Mhm.
But and I think what we're dealing with is also you're looking at 1964, which is the last year the Twilight Zone also was airing. So you had that creep factor coming in there, and that Halloween feel, as it were, that might have contributed to these shows being made that way.
Well, the basic rule is whenever you come up with an idea, there's 5 other people that have come up with the exact same idea at the exact same time, and everything depends on how you bring that idea to market.
Yeah. I mean, Joseph Campbell wrote about that as like the collective consciousness, collective creative consciousness.
I guess being creative, you're kind of tuned in to a certain frequency.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's
Sometimes,
kind
yeah.
of what it is. It's like we have a shared mythology, and what it is that our creativity is comes from the same well.
I think that's why the big two are pretty stale these days, is because they're rehashing the same old things. All the
Right.
writers are writing what they grew up with.
Right.
You
You
know,
know,
There's a lot of reason why the
well,
big two
that
is
too.
stale
Yeah.
also. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
you
It
know.
doesn't have much at all to do with creativity, believe
It
me.
has more to do with studio interference and and-
Non-creativity is more like
yeah, exactly.
But I kind of want to address this comment Patrick put on there. But Addams Family only lasted 2 years and died, so the Munsters, for whatever reason, had more staying power.
Mhm.
The studio was committed to it more.
Yes.
Well, you're also looking at too. Also, it's again the fish out of water. Even though you had the Addams family, they still looked human. Yeah, you had Cousin It and you had Uncle Fester, who was about, but they still looked human. But then when you looked at Thing, you know, at that time in a box,
Thing in a box.
But at that time, what you have now, just like in the in that clip earlier, where you had Herman Munster go into the doctor, and they didn't realize that they were out of place. They never, they never. In fact, what was her name? Marilyn.
Yeah, that she was
the ugly one.
She was the
ugly one. They always felt sorry for Marilyn.
What always got me is they tell that to her face.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, Marilyn, if you weren't so ugly," and it's like, "My God."
Yeah, they were so cruel. Like give it all sorts of people.
There's a lot of factors that figure into that. A lot of it comes down to studio loyalty too. So that CBS might have just needed that slot open. I don't know what the ratings were for either shows. Addams Family might have been a bomb for all I know when it was first out. Right. I just know now you turn on Pluto, there's an entire channel to the Addams Family. There's not a channel to the Munsters. So
that's because somebody bought it. That's why.
That's pretty much probably what it is. Yeah, easier to get a hold of.
Yeah. Now the real question:
Addams Family in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Which Addams Family are we talking about? Because the
Addams Family would straight up kill the Munsters.
Yeah, the Munsters are too nice.
Yeah, that's true.
Pugsley
in a fight, I would put my money on the Addams Family.
It would come down between Grandpa and Uncle Fester.
Yeah,
and Uncle Fester.
My money's on Uncle Fester. Yeah.
Can Grandpa light a light bulb with his mouth? I don't think so.
He can light. Fester can light too.
You know what? Wednesday and Pugsley
make a blink.
Scream Eddie, just gone. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I don't care if he turns into a wolf.
Pugsley would eat Eddie.
Yeah,
probably.
I don't actually think that Grandpa Munster is a vampire because you never see him drink blood, but you always see him doing mad experiments. So he's actually a mad scientist.
As a hobby, probably,
yeah.
They just want to show him drinking blood on the air. That wouldn't go over very well.
Oh, they could have hinted at it.
If it had Technicolor, you would have seen him with a bright red glass.
Yeah,
but
if I'm not mistaken, I think they did shoot the pilot in color, and then they came back and made it black and white.
Munsters?
No, yeah, they didn't show it in color.
Yeah.
I think they shot it to be in color, and then they made it black and white. Then they came back out and made it in color, which I thought it kind of takes away from the effect to me.
Right about on that cusp where there were, color TV sets were such a oddity. Yeah,
right.
That's why you see a lot of those shows, Batman in color.
Right.
But I would say, okay, was it Lily Munster?
Yeah.
Was a like a vampirella vampiress, right?
Oh.
Okay, so
Succubus.
right, and Grandpa was her grandfather, right?
Right.
Her
dad,
right? So you're by relation, I would say they're vampire.
Because Herman, he was just created in a lab. For all we know,
could have been
Grandpa made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
And you knew that because they brought up in every single episode that he was patched together.
You see, but that right. Well, you see, that's the thing, because it's like, but you see, that makes sense. So, Lily and Grandpa is a vampire. Lily's a vampire. Grandpa was a mad scientist that made Herman.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Marilyn was
where does the werewolf come in?
Yeah.
Where does the werewolf come in? Was Lily like messing around with the werewolf milkman?
That's the mailman.
Oh,
yeah, the milkman.
Oh my gosh!
Either that or he could have been born and then became a werewolf later on.
Hey, she just couldn't explain why he turned into a wolf once every 30 days, just like the mailman.
And Herman was dumb enough to believe it.
Yeah. Well, I mean Herman, but I mean. Here on Dispatches, we ask the hard questions.
Yeah,
well, he probably wouldn't ask any questions because their first child was so ugly.
That the Munsters had a fire-breathing dragon as a pet. And the Addams
that's true.
Yeah.
What was Thing then?
But the Addams family had lurch.
What was Thing? They did have lurch.
I always thought he was a pet or something. But
Thing?
Yeah.
Thing was a pet. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say
cousin It was a cousin.
Was a
from
cousin.
down.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, Lurch was a butler.
Lurch was the butler. Yeah.
But when you look at the Addams family and you look at the Munsters kind of have to be what they are. But the Addams family had a wider berth in what they could be, because the Wednesday of the 90s movies is not really the Wednesday of the 1960s show. They still had some characteristics, and they were still creepy and what have you.
And
But the
crawling.
Wednesday, they were homicidal maniacs in the 90s of Addams family.
No, but
Well,
the
to
thing
be
is, though,
honest-
you have to be familiar with the Charles Addams.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
They kind of were homicidal maniacs in the cartoons.
Oh, very morbid.
That
Yeah.
whole scene with the first movie where they're dumping hot oil on the carolers,
Yeah.
that's a direct rip off of one of the cartoons.
Yeah.
So it's like, actually the movies were closer in vibe to the cartoons than the TV show was.
Yeah.
And also the show mainly focused on Gomez and Morticia.
Right.
Like,
True.
the kids
This
were
is true.
primarily side characters.
Right.
And how different from today's sitcoms, because Gomez and Morticia were madly in love with one another.
Yeah.
And they could tolerate each other completely.
Oh.
They were
Like-
just into their life,
Yeah.
Like really, think about it. Like they were supposed to be the weird family.
Mhm.
And so they were supposed to be the opposite of everything the perfect family of the time was. And it was
But they
kind of
loved each other.
strange
How
that
weird.
the fact that they love each other
Yeah.
is considered the weird part.
That
Yeah, how
Gomez
weird is that?
was constantly after Morticia.
Yeah.
All the
Dish,
time.
that's French.
Well, they even admitted to having sex also, because they would drop puns
Oh,
and
Oh,
innuendos.
sure.
yeah.
about
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
They was
why.
more like a
That's
first
why.
one
I get.
system.
But that's why that scene in the first,
Hand
in the
pilot.
second movie,
Palm
the
pilot.
second movie was funny, where the baby was being born. So you have like Pugsley and Wednesday in the waiting room,
Yeah.
and the other kids are talking about Cabbage Patches. It's like, how the stork brought their
Yeah.
brother, and it's like, so how did you get your brother? It's like, oh, my parents had
Our parents had sex. And it does like this close up. Our parents had sex. But that's one thing about those movies, and I wish we would have gotten a third one. And I think if Raw Julia didn't die, we might have.
Right.
But those one thing
Yeah.
about was those matter of fact jokes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the first one when she's like, the Girl Scout comes up
Oh.
and like, are
Dead-
those real lemonade? Is that real lemonade?
Deadpan humor.
No, that's
Deadpan humor.
Girls,
What
the
was
Girl Scout cookies. Like,
Yeah.
are they made
with
Are
real
they for
girls?
real?
Are there any
Girl
Girl
Scouts.
Scouts in there? Yeah.
It's
I
like
still ask that
my
question.
my father ran that joke into the ground. I swear to
Dad joke
God,
now.
yeah, really, it became the ultimate dad joke.
I
And,
might
like
ask
we
that
were at
question
a
all the
rib
time.
place. We were at a rib place, and the waiter
Yeah,
was like,
Paul
"Oh, it's
Pilot.
like you get to, it's like, oh, we have baby back ribs." And my father just looked him dead in the eyes, like, "Can I choose the baby?"
So
I might feel
Yes.
old, baby.
Just start walking around the restaurant going, I think that one looks good.
Yeah.
well, see, I think there you go, and that's why Munsters had more staying power when it was a sitcom in the '60s. But
Right.
overall, the Addams Family has a lot more staying power than the Munsters
Oh,
did, because
no,
they're still sick.
both shows are timeless. Really.
The shows, absolutely.
Yeah.
But as far as an IP, as far as a creation, the Addams
Oh.
Family is you're looking at two different movies, two good movies, a couple of bad movies, one even featuring Tim Curry as Gomez, but nobody wants to talk about that, and we don't need to now. And then you have two cartoons that are not great. You had a cartoon series. You had a couple of cartoon series.
And there is an excellent YouTube channel, if you haven't seen it, that has an adult Wednesday Addams in it. And she goes out on her own and tries to date.
Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah, I saw that
Very good
trend
channel.
whenever they announced the
Yeah.
Netflix show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I
And then
remember
they sent her to therapy.
Yeah, there you go. That's-
Well, Monsters, they had a series of made-for-TV movies in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
True.
With it that take them or leave them.
But they're still the same cast, and that's what I'm
no,
saying.
no, it's not. In the 90s, it was a completely different cast.
Yeah, a whole different case. They had the guy. Oh, he played a on a bad
think I do
sitcom
remember
where he
that.
was a mechanical cop. That's
Yeah, and
He
it had
played
Ben
Herman
Stiller's
Munster.
wife played Marilyn
Harriman?
in one of them.
Yeah, Ed Harriman.
Harriman?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, well, Marilyn was disposable one way or another, right? I mean, she was played by two actresses on the show, and then
In it, one of them also had Jack Klompus from Seinfeld play Grandpa. I think that was the second one they made.
okay, so we've had more successes with the Addams Family than we have with the Monsters.
Yeah,
Let's say, but as far as society or pop culture is concerned, I see a lot more Addams Family cosplay and Addams Family inspired things than I do the Monsters, and I think that comes from because the Monsters, and I don't want to say ripped off, but were inspired from those Universal movies, while the Addams Family were its own unique thing.
Well, and also I think that a lot of people still like they grew up with the movies, so that's what they remember.
That's
it's
true.
like
Plus, it's easier to cosplay Morticia and Wednesday than it is Marilyn and
This is true.
I mean, Christina
Mama Munster with
Christina
them being
Ricci's
recognizable.
Wednesday, I think, just resonates with all the goth kids.
yeah, and also you have to think about it's kind of hard to cosplay the monsters because everyone will think that you're just cosplaying the Universal Frankenstein,
right? Exactly,
and stuff.
So let me ask you this question then: taking that into consideration when we create an IP or create something, should we really look at that as in, okay, if somebody wanted to cosplay this, because that cosplay is actually kind of a way of marketing your characters, your books, your what have you. We should look at it. Yeah, we should really start thinking outside of, like when you make the silhouette of a character, you want it to be distinguishable, like Mickey Mouse. Please don't sue me, Disney. Mickey Mouse, and so on. So, while the Monsters was able to hold that, but like you said, you can't cosplay. You couldn't be.
Well, it's like I think that the issue is that it's like everything under the sun has been done a billion times, and what makes it unique is how you do it. But the thing is, though, to even think about like how people would cosplay it, it's kind of like thinking about, would Netflix be able to make this? And I think that it's a very limiting way of thinking about a creative endeavor. And honestly, I think we've seen too many people think that way, especially in comics, where this is a medium where we can do whatever we want, and people are putting literal blinders on to make it more marketable to low budget studios.
Amen.
So it's like, I don't think that that's something that really should ever be a consideration. Create the thing that you want, regardless of what technology is at the moment around you. I mean, it's like, look, you want to make your own version of Frankenstein, you want to make your own version of a vampire chick or a goth chick, go right ahead. It's like, if people are always going to associate it to something that they know already, but it's what you bring to the table is what makes that version unique. But don't go by, it's like, could I cosplay this? Could somebody? It's like, that's irrelevant. You're not making your book for cosplayers. You're not making your book for Netflix. You're making your book because this is a story you want to tell with characters that you want to make. So I think that's what, in the end, that should be the takeaway of it. That's that we should learn from this.
Yeah. I think that works in the indie scene more than it does in a more bigger budget marketing.
Oh yeah,
scene.
Absolutely.
Because like Blizzard, that's how they market their video games. They hire cosplayers. Dresses these characters.
Yeah,
that's how they market it.
Yeah, there's a woman that I used to watch, Kamui cosplay, where this woman is just making, like, she's taking these elaborate designs and creating all this crazy armor. But the thing is, though, but the thing is, though, is that this studio is they're still creating the crazy armor. They're not going, well, this will be difficult for somebody to cosplay.
It kind of takes away from the cosplayer.
You know, it's like, I mean, it's a very challenging design, that's for sure. You have to be a very advanced level cosplayer to even begin to make these the you know.
And that's why she's so popular too.
Right,
because
exactly.
she takes those complex designs. And
right.
As I've designed a team of superheroes to intentionally be cosplayed, it's a lot more limiting than you can ever imagine.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, because when you were doing that environmental, the
preservers. Yeah.
Yeah, for the park, for the
nature preserve. Yeah.
Yeah, so that, but you see, but that's the thing. It's like that makes sense because they do want to have mascots for
different aspects in the park.
Yeah, for their advertising.
Yeah, that's not to really tell a story as much as it is to push an agenda. Or
it's literally.
You're right. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
the marketing tool. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, but yes, it's like marketing. When you're talking about marketing, you are pushing an agenda, you know, and it's like visit the park. In this case, it's visit the park and, you know, hang out with your family there. And, you know, for us, it's, you know, marketing is, yes, you want to buy our books. You know, it's like there's always with marketing, there's always an agenda. It's not necessarily.
That's why He-Man came about, Transformers.
Exactly. You know? Their agenda was to sell toys.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was that simple, you know. It's like, you know, people who try to ascribe something else to those characters. It's like, no, they were created specifically to make toys. That's the agenda, you know. It's, but yeah, don't market. Yeah, exactly. Don't market your stuff based on cosplayers. Don't do that.
No. Or Netflix deals. Anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Well. Well, my point being, though, and then I'm kind of focused on cosplay. What I'm saying is, when you do create a character, though, how far away do you want to be from it being recognizable as another character?
You probably can't do that. You know what? It's like, look, you know, I do a comic about a friggin' unicorn girl princess. I mean, it's like, I'm not concerned about the fact there you go to DeviantArt and there's 3,000 variations on the theme. You know, I'm really not. It's like, because in the end, it's like, it's not my version that they're doing. It's like, I'm doing mine.
Yep.
You know.
So going back to that question that I asked earlier, Daphne, what can we take away from 60 sitcoms that we can apply to our creative endeavors today, but not cosplay? No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Yes, exactly. Not cosplay. I mean, I don't know. I think these simplistic, more people I think they should really study simplistic, the simpler, it's not simplistic, but the simpler storytelling. I think that too many people, they get wrapped up in the whole idea that they have to create an epic and everything has to be complicated and multi-layered. Like, you know what? Maybe you don't need to write Doom. Maybe you do just need, you know, like some kind of like simple bewitched philosophy, you know,
right,
type of
right,
thing, you know. Yeah, there's just, I think that if there's anything to take away from it is sometimes you just need to tell a very simple story to get your point across.
You know, like you were saying, and I think that's why the comic book Invincible was popular for a while, because it was taking those ideas from the 60s and 70s and making them new, those simple bad guy, good guy scenarios without making it complicated like they do in modern stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Randy, what about you? What do you think?
For me, it's the zaniness, the sense of whimsy, the writing, the quality of the comedy that's there. So drama is, who said it? Drama is easy, comedy is hard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's difficult to be funny. I mean, and genuinely funny.
Yes, it is.
And a lot of those sitcoms, that's why they've lasted as long as they have, and they're still memorable. We're doing an entire show about them, is because they're memorable, and they're memorable because there's a quality there. It's not the fact that this mortal guy married a witch or this guy found a genie on the beach. It's the way that these shows were written and done and performed that make them timeless. Right. You know, and the simple concepts, the more whimsical, the better. In my opinion, everything is, especially in comics, has gotten way too serious.
Yeah.
And way too so-called realistic when you're not dealing with realism, when you're talking about a guy in tights fighting crime or anybody in tights fighting crime. It's not a realistic proposal, and it shouldn't be. There should be deconstructed superhero comics out there, absolutely, but not everything needs to be deconstructed. And like what Jared said with Invincible, you need to have that old style, old fashioned superhero good guy versus bad guy books out there because they're fun and they're entertaining. You know, we were talking earlier about Captain Marvel and the original Captain Marvel. Millions of copies sold on the zaniest of ideas.
Yeah.
And they sold because we had just come out of a horribly realistic war. And we didn't want to even remotely think about the horrors that had brought on.
Oh, yeah.
We needed fun. And we do now, too. We need that same kind of fun, that same kind of whimsy out there. And we're dealing in a medium where we could do and be anything.
Yeah.
You know, you could draw and anything that it's only limited by your imagination. Why are we limiting our imagination by doing so many realistic stories, so many horror stories, so many, you know, cheaply budgeted presentations when we could be doing the fantastic? And we ought to be.
Right. You said something, though, and I was thinking about this. You said realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this question. What is creative about being realistic?
Nothing.
Well, I think there's a line.
Depending upon the genre that you're in, some comics are designed to be real. American Splendor is a beautiful, genius work. You know, don't get me wrong, but it's not, the guy is not running around in tights fighting crime. You know, he's living life. Love and Rockets is another example.
Right.
It's got its crazy elements in it, but it's realistic.
But also, it has
in Paradise.
Strangers in Paradise. Right.
Those stories have their place.
Absolutely. But there needs to be more crazy stuff out there just to stretch the imagination, to question the art form, and to stretch the art form every way possible needs to be out there. That's what makes manga. That's what part of what makes manga so successful is that they're not afraid to go out there and go crazy.
Yeah, they have
what gets me today,
stories for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
What gets me today is, you know, they don't understand what pushing the envelope is anymore. Now they think pushing the envelope is dark and gritty, and how many curse words can our superheroes say, or how much blood can they get out of this fella when he beats him up? You know what I mean? Like,
well, you
there's
see,
a line. Like, you can push the envelope, but that's not what it has to be when you push that envelope.
Well, you see, that the irony of it is that they want their comics to be adult and gritty, and they end up making the most childish shit possible.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's like, it's saying the F word every other time. It's like, look, that's just me talking.
Oh, let's show us.
That's not, you know, it doesn't mean anything, you know, when
show his wang through his underwear. That'll be great.
Yeah, it's like it's like
put nipples on the costume.
He said
put nipples
what?
on the costume.
You know, it's like a Beavis and Butthead.
Because that's realistic.
You know, right? It's like it's a Beavis and Butthead type of realism.
Yeah.
You know, it's not really. You know, but also the thing too is that
I think I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, Daphne. Go ahead.
No, that it's like, you know, that realism also. It's like also they're superheroes. Why do you want them to be realistic?
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
I think there would be a huge market out there if DC especially would go through and reprint some of their older libraries. The Dick Sprang, Batmans, the Mort Weisinger, Supermans, the Sugar and Spikes, Fox and Crow, even the Jerry Lewis comic has got a lot of charm and whimsy to it that you're not seeing around today. The very early Captain Marvels, they got the rights to print all of that stuff if they wanted to. And I think a lot of times, especially DC, is scared to do it because they don't want it. They don't want people to realize that what quality stuff was out there at one point in time. You know, some of the stuff
stories in the 50s were wild.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of those Superman stories in the 50s, a lot of the Batman stories in the 50s were written by the guys who were writing Captain Marvel in the 40s.
Yeah.
And had learned that formula, had learned that sense of whimsy and brought it over to Superman. That's why Superman and Batman got so ridiculous, and Wonder Woman too, as soon as it fell under the Code Authority, because it was easier to be entertaining and be whimsical under that code. And once that code was removed, we've gone in exactly the opposite direction, where everything has to be realistic and everything has to be scientifically explained and Oh, that's why you can't do a decent
Poorly.
Plastic Man series anymore. You know.
Morning, Mike.
Hey, morning, Mike,
Mike.
Jimmy.
Mike Jimmy, who does Hug on Animation and Sketchy Saturday. Hey,
But
okay, Mitch.
you see some of these crazy sitcoms, to bring it back to today's topic, some of the crazier sitcoms that have come out lately are the most memorable. Third Rock from the Sun, Raising Hope,
Yeah.
Ed,
So,
Raising, not Raising, anyway, the other one that the guy from Raising Hope did.
My Name is Earl.
My Name is Earl. Yeah. Crazier,
Scrubs.
the better. Scrubs. The crazier, the better, and the longer and the more memorable. It's just nobody wants to understand that. Everybody has to be socially conscious and
Like Daphne said,
be
everyone's
topical.
in therapy.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Yeah.
in therapy, yeah.
yeah.
So,
the
Mitch.
therapy thing was good in Sopranos, but
Right,
only good in
exactly.
Sopranos.
But it's more-
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
deconstructing superheroes was great in The Watchmen too, but Watchmen was 1980s.
Right. Look,
Yeah.
the second you start sending Norse gods to therapy, you're done. That's it. It's dead. Nobody goes to therapy anymore. No one is allowed to go to therapy anymore. It's done. It's used. You know.
So, Mitch, what do you think we could take from 60 sitcoms?
I think most of all the importance of character in a story, because all these sitcoms we've talked about, from Gilligan's Island and My Favorite Martian and Andy Griffith,
Oh, yeah.
that the stories are simplistic, like Daphne said. But what makes them good is the writing, and the way the writing makes it good is the character. Like everyone knows the types of characters that are in Gilligan's Island, because they're so interesting
Archetypes,
they're so archetypes within themselves.
Mhm.
That we really do need to just as a culture bring back character as a storytelling tool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amen.
Try to make unique characters that stand out, that benefit a story other than like we talked earlier, just having a cosplay thing.
Right. Absolutely. All right. And Jared, you want to answer the question? You kind of touched on it. I thought maybe you had something else you didn't say.
I think Daphne, Randy, and Mitch pretty much nailed it on the head. Characterization, zaniness, simple storytelling. You don't have to make things overcomplicated.
Right.
Just you have the character, you have the archetype, follow through on it.
Right.
Let's see what this guy can do. He makes hot dogs in New York City at a hot dog stand. What's he gonna do today? Dun, dun, dun. You know what I mean? Like what? Just make it simple. Have a likable character. You're gonna make him straight. Make him be Darren or Major Nelson, and have the the sidekick that's the goofy one. You know what I mean? And then have the pretty girl who the straight guy loves, but he can't because she's an alien from the third world. I don't know.
Well, let's look at. No, I think you make a good point. Look at one of the longest surviving cartoons out today in modern times is SpongeBob SquarePants.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? But the straight man, the zany one, the archetype is the money grubbing one, and all these simple.
The gay best friend, yeah,
the gay best friend, absolutely.
Which one?
His name is
gay best friend, though.
Patrick Star. Star. Anyway. So, but yeah, absolutely, I agree. I kind of want to hit Patrick's comment up earlier here. The takeaway is you don't swap characters in the middle of a story arc / series. That's why people reasoned and screamed and voted to have one of the Robins killed.
People weren't ready for Jason Todd.
That was just the bloodthirstiness of the fans, though.
Yeah,
hey, call and kill Robin? Cool. Give me that phone number.
Yeah, plus the
character that was the original
such a
internet
jackass.
troll before the internet.
Yeah.
Amen. Yep.
People weren't really ready for Jason Todd. He was a complete 180 from Dick. They just weren't ready for it. That's why people like Tim Drake more, is because he's halfway in the middle.
Yeah, it's a good thing they didn't ask to name him. So, Robin Skeety Boat, whatever.
Robin McRobin Face.
They'll never know who I am under this mask.
To the Batcave, Robin McRobin face. Yeah.
All right, Daphne, let's try this again.
Oh,
Let
okay.
everybody know where we can find you.
Oh, well, so if you want to know more about me and my artwork and all that other stuff, you can head on over to my main portfolio site at egoworks.com, EGOWRKS, where you can find links to all of my galleries and social media sites, but I mostly post to Facebook if you're into seeing sketches and current work in progress. Check out my YouTube channel at Daphne Lage Art, which also simulcasts through this channel. And you can also check me out with Nita on Mondays and Fridays on the Ragin 2 network, because this is where all the cool kids hang out. And yeah, you can find me there. And while you're at egoworks.com, you can read the first 5 issues of Ego Raven, Air the First Unicorn for free in its original black and white format. But if you prefer your fantasy to be more of a Lord of the Rings type of adventure, you can head on over to the link at Tall Tales, TAILS online.com, and read the first 20 issues of Tall Tales for free. So lots to do.
All right. Randy?
If you want to catch up with me, you can catch me tomorrow night at 9 p.m. on the Zimcast. Also 9 a.m. on Sundays on Sunday Funnies. Or you can look for me on Facebook. You can try to find me on Twitter, though I'm hardly ever over there because Twitter is a den of hate. Other than that, if you want to read some of my stuff right now over at Amazon, there is War of the Worlds, Infestation. It's a book that I wrote for Caliber Press many moons ago that I'm still very proud of. If you want to go over there and read some of my writing, or you can catch up to me at Arrow Comics 4.0. Look for the link tree and take a look at some of the stuff that we're doing. And there's a lot more stuff on the way. So,
yeah, but switching dicks in the middle of Bewitched killed the show. That will do it to you.
They lasted a few years after they switched dicks. So
I just think it's funny that the gay guy's name was Dick.
Which one? Oh.
But then
Too
again,
soon,
it was
I'm sorry.
Hollywood, and a lot of people were.
And they'd have kept the first dick if he didn't have back problems.
But hate keeps one warm, they say. So,
But hate keeps one's warm. Yeah.
Jared, where can we find you, man?
You can find me on Facebook, Jared Lockhart 80. You can find me there. Ask me questions. Befriend me if you like. Watch me get banned. For 3 more weeks. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
Eventually, we'll all be banned for posting something.
Yeah, a lot happens on Facebook.
Yeah, I had my last Facebook account killed, so I had to create a new one.
Mitch, speaking of, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me at Linktree /Celtic Cross Studios. You can find my webcomics there over at Tapas and Global Comics. And to kind of recap from earlier, the figurines for the Boger came in. So
Let's see, hold on.
Okay.
I want to put you up. There you go. Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. So I'll be sending those out to the Indiegogo backers starting this week.
Awesome.
Still haven't gotten the book yet, but it should still be available for September. Under those watching that's backed in on Indiegogo. So
Jared's showing off his living room right now.
There you go.
Hey, look at that!
What a great living room.
Ooh, nice piano.
Yeah.
All right.
Not real.
Of course. The piano or the room?
It was a complete accident. I apologize.
You don't have to apologize to us.
It's
Hey,
very
is that a
60s.
library in the background? Ooh, cool.
Well,
So I put up my curtain so you don't see the crap that's on the other side. So it's a mess.
All right. I'm C Michael Lanning. You can find me back here again next week when our topic is going to be villains. So come join us for that, and let's see what makes a villain. What can we take from this week that we can add to next week and just really dig into? Does a sympathetic villain really work, or do we simplistic one?
Can we try to find a couple of modern Marvel writers to sit there and make that definition for us? It might be funny.
Well,
Might be
I'll
funny.
put you on there. I'll put them on there. If you find them, I'll put them on.
I ain't gonna go looking for them. No
Yeah,
way.
right.
Not
So-
me.
Jason Aaron's not too bad.
Who?
Dead silence.
Jason Aaron's not too bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's always one somewhere. So I just want to remind you, if you're going to create, make sure it's invention and not convention. So, good night.
Fine, right, and pays a scientific fact of it.
Scientific fact?
There are atmospheric rays which control bodily motion. Now, if a person containing negative or hexam qualities gets between you and them rays, he creates the static that jars any successful motion into an unsuccessful motion and jinxes you. And that is a scientific fact.
And that is also the biggest crock of nothing I ever heard.
It's guys like you that laughed at us, right, brother? Buzz flew hard.
Buzz flew hard.
The man that discovered the scientific fact I was just telling.
Over.